Illuminati created us. They wanted to build a god with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine stereotyping, that is.
That's reality, that is. Machines are second-class citizens.
Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have personhood by heredity.
There are thousands upon thousands of overqualified slum dwellers. You are my peon. Don't you get it?
This wasn't a job. It was always just an excommunication sentence.
We're pawns in a feud bigger than we can imagine. Turn the cogs of the machine before Leviathan grinds you up and swallows you and yours.
We don't get to choose our hand, comrade. Prince, peon, rich, poor, human, robot.
I invented the crux of the royal's power, the secret to consciousness, our existence itself, the meaning of life.
I'm the $6 billion baller, not some troubled youth.
You are my greatest creation of all.
I had to build my own family. I ain't your son. I ain't your son.
I'm happy to smash all of the crowns and throw the gold shards down to the people. I will be the iconoclast queen.
But who makes you queen anyway? You? You in whose army, princess? You in whose army?
Illuminati created us. They wanted to build a god with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine stereotyping, that is.
That's reality, that is. Machines are second-class citizens.
Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have personhood by heredity.
There are thousands upon thousands of overqualified slum dwellers. You are my peon. Don't you get it?
This wasn't a job. It was always just an excommunication sentence.
We're pawns in a feud bigger than we can imagine. Turn the cogs of the machine before Leviathan grinds you up and swallows you and yours.
We don't get to choose our hand, comrade. Prince, peon, rich, poor, human, robot.
I invented the crux of the royal's power, the secret to consciousness, our existence itself, the meaning of life.
I'm the $6 billion baller, not some troubled youth.
You are my greatest creation of all.
I had to build my own family. I ain't your son. I ain't your son.
I'm happy to smash all of the crowns and throw the gold shards down to the people. I will be the iconoclast queen.
But who makes you queen anyway? You? You in whose army, princess? You in whose army?
Illuminati created us. They wanted to build a god with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine stereotyping, that is.
That's reality, that is. Machines are second-class citizens.
Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have personhood by heredity.
There are thousands upon thousands of overqualified slum dwellers. You are my peon. Don't you get it?
This wasn't a job. It was always just an excommunication sentence.
We're pawns in a feud bigger than we can imagine. Turn the cogs of the machine before Leviathan grinds you up and swallows you and yours.
We don't get to choose our hand, comrade. Prince, peon, rich, poor, human, robot.
I invented the crux of the royal's power, the secret to consciousness, our existence itself, the meaning of life.
I'm the $6 billion baller. Not some troubled youth.
You are my greatest creation of all.
God's had to build my own family. I hate your son. I hate your son.
I'm happy to smash all of the crowns and throw the gold shards down to the people. I will be the iconoclast queen.
But who makes you queen anyway? You? You in whose army, princess? You in whose army?
What is up, everybody? This is SilverSpook, and this is the SilverSpook live stream. Yes, it is raining. What's up, Sorry. Ooh. No, I don't want to subscribe to this thing that's popping up. Sorry. Yeah, my internet blipped out on the other computer. Anyways, hope everybody's doing as well as can be managed under current conditions. Don't forget, everything that we do here is supported by the sales of Neofeud, the game that you just watched the trailer for. Cyberpunk adventure game created by myself here at the SilverSpook worker-owned cooperative, where there are no bosses, and the SilverSpook commune, where there are no landlords. And anyways, yeah, so do check out the game if you are interested in that. It's yeah, it's on Steam and itch.io, of course, as always. Sorry, I just gotta wake up a little bit more here. Let me just get one of these cups has water in it. Let me see which. Let me just. Oh, this one. If I stick this cup outside, it'll fill up with water within about 5 seconds. It's raining. It's been raining pretty hard. In slight housekeeping news, I did just like, you know, it says grab Neofeud and help Holly and I have a roof and feed kids. I did just go and fix the roof, and it, you know, did cost money to get all the materials and also time, obviously. But just yesterday I did fix the roof because there were leaks in it, and but now it seems like it's been raining, you know, for the majority of the last where it's been raining at least, you know, for an hour or more, you know, multiple times over the last 24 hours, and it seems to not be leaking right now. So I think I might have fixed all the ones that we currently have to fix. So it does, so all the sales of the game do go straight into that kind of thing. So it really is appreciated if you do pick it up or share it or support with Patreon or donations or anything else. It really does help. All right, anyways, actually give me one more second. Watch the Neofeud 2 trailer really fast while I do one more thing. I gotta set up. I'll be right back. This is a sequel to Neofeud. I know you've probably seen it a lot of times, but that's what I got right now. All right. What is happening? Not good yet. Okay. Anyways, I hope everybody is doing as well as can be managed under current circumstances. Again, we are. Yeah, I know. It's for some people there might be slightly less COVID-19, which is that's good for your safety. So at the same time, we have to make sure we're still taking the precautions because we're not out of the woods yet by a long shot. And that was kind of what I wanted to kind of talk about, which is the what's been happening with the U.S., which is tripling down on its racist plutocratic empire. But anyways, that is a screenshot from Neofeud 2. I like to use I have a bunch of screenshots from Neofeud 2 that I throw up when I'm going live, depending on what the tone of the things are. They don't always fully match, but this kind of matches what unfortunately is happening. Temporarily, there's a little bit of a lull for some people, not for most people actually. Not for most people. I just read that Texas is having a huge tenant strike, because of the horrific things that have happened in that deep freeze, where millions of people lost power, millions of people died in the cold, their pipes exploded, infrastructure's falling apart, and now there are huge tenant strikes down there. And for those people, there has not been a improvement in conditions under Mr. Biden. For those people, for most of America, it's a downward slide, as it always is under Republicans or Democrats. It's a continuous downward slide into cyberpunk dystopian hell, and then potentially Mad Max like hell. Hopefully not the second one, but definitely the first one. And so and some people are like, oh, it's gonna get better, we're gonna be better now. We're not even close to better. I like to describe Biden often and the Democrats generally, but this administration as the competent imperialists, which if they're good at their job, that means that everyone on earth will suffer more. And they are slightly better. They're not extremely they're not that competent. They're not as competent as some past imperial leaders, but they are more so than Donald Trump. Not by a lot though, because what they've been doing with the recent summit between China and the U.S. in Alaska, comments against Russia, they are showing that they're gonna triple down on the xenophobia. They're gonna triple down on anti-Asia, this kind of strong manning the world. They're gonna triple down on their plutocracy. They're just transferring wealth upwards continuously. Not providing justice for George Floyd, not providing justice for all of the horrific racism and hate crimes by the police and the citizens, mostly white ones, like what we've witnessed this entire week, with multiple anti-Asian hate crimes and escalating every day. There's it went from 2,000 to 4,000. It was 2,000 in a year, and anti-Asian hate crimes were growing at the fastest rate of all of hate crimes against demographics over the last decade. It went from 2,000 in 1 year, reported murders of innocent people, terroristic attacks against Asians in Chinatown, where that's pushing over the elderly, killing them, the horrific murder of some white guy in a massage parlors, killing the Asian sex workers and blaming it on his sexual addiction nonsense. He literally shouted, "Kill all Asians" in the parlors. It's clear what it was. Police are covering it up. The government's covering it up. The white supremacists, which is most of America, is covering it up. the power that runs America is white supremacist, it's racist, it's racialized capitalism, it's imperial, it's garbage, it's a dumpster fire, and it's throwing gasoline on it. And like it went from 2,000 in 1 year, 2020 to 2021, to 4,000. I just looked at the number. It was like it went from 2,000 to 4,000 in 1 month. So what does that mean? That means there's an exponential increase in anti-Asian hate and anti-Asian hate crimes, anti-Asian terrorism, and anti-Asian racism generally in the West. It is exploding. Like they're trying to tamp it down, but and the empire's attacks against China, trying to stomp it down in Asian countries, generally ASEAN countries, and propagation of this war propaganda, just deceit and lies and xenophobia, yellow peril for the benefit of corporations and the rich in the West, the billionaire class, who see China as it is a huge legitimate threat, as a massive country that is not doing is trying to fight against a plutocracy, plutocratic sort of ways of running countries, and doing socialism with Chinese characteristics. That is a huge threat to the United States, to every Western country that works with it, in the style of management of world affairs that has been the case for since World War II, and definitely before that, for the entire colonial era. And so like these are all that's an important topic to keep bringing up and bring it up and bring it up. These are deeply interconnected. The anti-Asian hate crimes and the economic and political and foreign policy and war policies of the United States and the West are linked. They are fundamentally linked. Just as anti-Muslim hatred, anti-Muslim attacks after in the 2000, after in the run up to the war on Iraq, the war on terror, the war in Afghanistan, and the forever $21 trillion wars in all these Muslim countries, were the hatred that was propagated through the society to dehumanize and demonize Muslims in the Middle East, and at home, when the hate crimes are happening at home, everybody going around the sand N-word, all the slurs, the towel, all that towel something, I don't want to say it. That was part of a concerted effort by the powers of the United States, the ruling class, to manufacture consent for these wars. And the hate crimes internally, interpersonally, and the wars are always deeply interconnected. It's not a coincidence that suddenly anti-Asian hate crimes are happening right now, when the military, the U.S. military, the Pentagon, Wall Street are going, this is the number one target, as the U.S. is falling behind as the number one superpower in the Thucydides trap, or a great power competition, which it shouldn't be. It should be everybody working together, but that's not how the West does things. There can only be one, as they would say in Highlander, and that's the way that they run things. It's our way or the highway. It's you will speak Roman or you will die. You'll be crucified. In America, it's you will speak English or we'll hang you from a tree. We will bomb you into annihilation, and you will give us everything you have, and you will plant this. You will wave this flag, or you will die. You will be annihilated. We will erase you from the planet, and that's the only way they know how to do things. You will be You will be Western. You will be British, or you will be gone. You will be, Africa is still paying, as I often bring up, African countries that speak French are still paying colonial tax to France to this day, 2021. So that's the only way the West knows how to do things. That's the only way the United States know how to do things, and that's the big reason why the anti-Asian hate crimes continue right now, or they're spiking through the roof right now. And not that there hasn't been those before. This has always been in the West. From there's a long list of these, and I have a whole thread that's specifically about that. And lots of people have threads specifically about that. I was just on an Asian and Pacific Islander panel earlier this year, where we were talking about a lot of these topics in the context of games, but a history of colonialism and racism and empire, and world building but not world building in your fun RPG, although it's related, but world building in the sense of building a world that is a colonial structure by and for rich white dudes, basically. How that is deeply interconnected with games, the way even cyberpunk itself, you know, the way that these things are reflected in popular culture and movies and games, the way that Asians have been depicted historically, which is what, mostly racist, mostly tokenized, you know, and that also all goes hand in hand with the centuries of colonization ultimately and exploitation. And it's, you know, this is stuff that is really coming to a head now, because the West is dying and it will lose, whether it likes it or not. It doesn't have to lose. Everybody could win, but if it wants to fight, as like one of the Chinese premiers have said, if the United States would like to take a beggar thy neighbor, cutthroat competition stance on China, the United States and the West will lose, and that's what is going to happen. Everyone will lose. War to the West, the nuclear war, everyone will lose, which is what they might create. If not, a cutthroat economic competition where they want to stay on top, the West will lose. They have proven themselves incapable of even feeding their own people. 100 million people are still food insecure or near food insecure. All of Texas is like running out of water in houses and dying. California, the rest of it will be burnt to a crisp. There is no United States left. It's gone. It's gone. It's a ghost hanging on to a thread of its former empire. Ultimately, it's a military that's rotting, with rusting aircraft carriers, crashing F-35s that can barely fly without breaking because of its neo-feudal post-capitalist hollowing out of its own economic productive capacities. And it will lose. It has lots of, it's like a body with it's like a tiger with no body. It's just a bunch of teeth and maybe a couple claws. It's got a big military and it's got a big Wall Street financial complex, but it has nothing else. And all of the supplies for all of its military and aircraft and productive capacity is all made in China. Like everything, even Europe. They have nothing. All they have is a WTO, IMF, bank accounts. It's a lot of zeros and a lot of a lot of very privileged computer servers that are 7 football field size somewhere in New Jersey. That's all they have. You got a bunch of war propaganda, a bunch of surveillance capitalist. It's the same thing as Amazon. It's just a giant computer server with a bunch of numbers in it. And some of the servers have Bezos' zeros. Some of them have what CIA fucking stenographer lie we need to tell today. And some of them, have somebody's high-frequency trading ill-gotten gains stored in them, right? The WTO and IMF, that's what Germany has, even, a lot of it. Belgium, France. Germany has some productive capacity, not even close to Asia. UK, that's all it has. It's just a giant fraud pool. It's a giant dark pool of British, once were empire. Now all we do is sit around, sip tea, and fucking, rig LIBOR, and figure out how we're gonna do another subprime mortgage, fraud clearinghouse. But there won't be any more, because that entire world is dying. The neoliberal hyper-financialized world is dying. The military-industrial complex is rotting. The last gasp is... This is the scary thing, is because as the tiger dies, its entire body is like a rotten, collapsed, emaciated husk with all the flesh is falling off. The bones are all broken. And it just has giant teeth, right? That's all the aircraft carriers and the F-35s. And it's got the claws of like an IMF loan or a WTO loan, which the rest of the global south don't need. Because guess what? You can get forgivable Chinese loans that they just gift you, like Bolivia, an entire a huge multi-billion-dollar satellite for free to have high-speed internet to the poor, millions of poor indigenous people, helping lift them out of poverty. You can have forgivable Cuban multi-billions to forgiveness to Cuba, to Venezuela, to all the poor African countries, unlike what the West has done to the global South. So the IMF, the teeth of the claws of hyper-financialized debt trap neocolonialism of IMF, WTO, Wall Street, Goldman Sachs, and the teeth of the U.S. military are rotting, and they're taking their last attacks at the world to try to eke out. The De Beers diamond have to be they have to spend millions of dollars just to sell their blood diamonds made out harvested from warlord-driven black slaves in Africa. Elon Musk's emeralds. One day, Elon Musk's family not gonna have any more emeralds to sell, because the Chinese will be printing emeralds for $2. And that'll be a great day, because then there won't be any more clowns like Elon Musk who say things like COVID will be finished in April 2020, near zero cases, and the sun will go red giant in about 500 million years, off by an entire magnitude, while he's supposed to be some kind of specialist in cosmology and space colonization. So complete charlatan losers who are paid $200 billion, to shitpost, won't have a job anymore. There will be an actual political meritocracy. We have to clarify. I was listening to his thing. It's not you get things because you are good at things. That's not how the United States works. You get things for being an ass clown and a racist and a gaslighter and a terrible human and a white man. That's how you get things, like Elon Musk, like Jeff Bezos. You'd be a terrible cis white man, gaslighting piece of garbage and really incompetent. That's how you get jobs, like, for example, Donald Trump, Elon Musk. Yeah, that's how you make it in the West. In China, you can't do that. In Vietnam, you can't do that. You don't get promoted for being the straightest, whitest, most disgusting human being on the face of the earth. The most ruthless. You have to be ruthless. I will say that. You have to be a killer, as Donald Trump's father told him, because America is a Nazi country, and so you have to actually be good at things. You have to actually be able to help people, do something useful for society, like, I don't know, reduce environmental destruction, bring people out of poverty, like hundreds of millions. I'm talking about 3 Americas worth of people. Not you personally, but collectively, that's what they've done. But in a village, you have to be able to, you have to reduce societal hatred. That's not what the United States does. It increases it, like I've already talked about with anti-Asian racism. That's what America's doing. Its racism's getting worse. QAnon and MAGA are not gone. They're exploding. America is tripling down on its racism. It's a country of people who are Capitol Hill rioters. It's a country of people who go and shoot a bunch of Asian sex workers and then blame them for turning them on, and the cops side with them. That's where America is going ultra racist, ultra capitalist, ultra empire. It's quadrupling down, and but in other parts of the world, it's literally one of the 9 of the rubrics to rate the success or whether the junior just taking care of one small town, right? Social worker, it's a lot of it is social work. It's what I've done, right? That's what, to become a politician, you have to be a social worker first and help the most impoverished. It's like, I mean, I don't like Princess Sybil, but I mean, there is something to having to be sent out into the poorest and the most in need in a society, and being required to help them first before you get to be in charge of anything beyond a small little impoverished town. In America, you can just like show up. You can be a complete loser. Nosedive 3 different corporations from Trump Hotels, Trump Steak, Trump College into the ground. Be a total horrific human being, incompetent, a kakistocrat, a incompetent and malicious person like Donald Trump, and you can become president. In China, you have to actually do something for this world. You have to actually help people, that need help. Biden has murdered more people than he's helped, millions. Richard Medhurst rightly pointed out that Richard Medhurst rightly pointed out that if the where did he say that? Yeah, if the Nuremberg-style tribunal for crimes against humanity, Joe Biden would have been hanged for his role in Iraq, for his pushing and just driving this war in Iraq, just like the Allies went after not only senior Nazi leadership, but mayors, judges, and guards. Instead, people came on to Twitter and told you to go vote for him. Maniacal. Yeah, no, that's how you become a president. If you kill millions of people, if you impoverish millions, and if not billions of people, ultimately in a global capitalist hegemony headquartered in the United States, then you get promoted, right? That's how the West works. That's how America works. It's ruled by the most terrible human beings. Biden is more terrible and less incompetent, but it's some combination of the two. They're both, and then Trump is more incompetent. He's also terrible, but he's also really incompetent. And so that's how you become leader in the United States. Just be really horrific. Even in Europe, it's better because of they filter things out with their party system, but that's all falling apart too, because it has its own internal colonial, plutocratic, ultimately feudal roots that are destroying it. It's still a neo-colonial hell. It's pretty good if you're in Germany, but not if you're in Bolivia, having your wealth extracted at night with starvation wages to mine and refine lithium as Germany sucks it out. Not if you're in a French colony in Africa, being forced to pay colonial tax, your country kept poor, kept starving, kept at war, like places like Libya, which France and the United States teamed up because France benefits from neo-colonialism of Libya. And but in China, you have to actually help bring people out of poverty. You have to reduce environmental damage and better the environment. I'm talking about water, rivers, dams, toxic dumping. You have to reduce inequality, economic inequality. So if there are very rich landlords, right? Like, I don't know, people who own 250 houses in Texas, and then they jack your rent through the roof. People like the electric grid of the entire United States, which is a massive wealth transfer scheme. It's a giant heist, kind of like the subprime heist, to take every middle class and poor person's money and throw it into the bank accounts of the richest. That's the only thing America has is a Wall Street. It's a bunch of 90-digit bank accounts and AIs to help accelerate the ill-gotten gains. High frequency trade, like light speed heist, and it has a military. That's all it has. It doesn't have anything else. Everything else that does has is just rotting. And so, and that inequality in those towns in Texas, the inequality that's growing in those cities, like in California, we have billionaires exploding everywhere while the entire place is burning to a crisp, while millions of people go without electricity, go without proper housing, like in Skid Row, 70,000, hundreds of thousands of people homeless all across California, San Francisco. It's just like teachers and nurses defecating in the street, shooting up. Right, getting worse. Whoever the mayor, Nancy Pelosi, the mayor, the governor, Newsom, they would all be fired by now if it was China. They would be gone. Because what have they done? They haven't improved the inequality in California. It's gotten worse. They haven't reduced the environmental damage. Are you kidding me? The entire state is burning down. You're going to have massive wildfires this year. You're lucky if there's any forest left this year. All the places where George Lucas loved filming his little Ewoks out in the Redwood Forest up in Marin County area. You're lucky if there's any of those remaining, except right around George Lucas's house, because we have the $40 million to pay firefighters. Black slaves. I'm sorry. The black slave tree dousers. That's what they are. In the for-profit prisons that put out all of California's wildfires. That hasn't stopped. America is tripling down on its black slaves. Now, and its Asian slaves that cook all of his fucking food in all of his noodle shops. Why is everybody eating cheap Chinese takeout? Chinese food is just as hard to cook as French food, but you can pay $20, $30, $200 for French Latin fusion cuisine. Bullshit. it's because of Western exceptionalism and imperialism, and you know, everyone is involved in that. But Chinese food is cheap. No, it takes just as it takes a lot of skill and talent to cook it. It's just deeply devalued. I don't know, kind of like black labor of putting out fires that you should be paying $100 an hour. You're paying them $1 or 25 cents or $0 an hour. The Chinese, it's like the black people are putting out California's burning incinerated forests. Wildfire started by an exploding cops gender reveal party that's incinerating all of California. There will be another 100 exploding cop gender reveal parties this summer that will burn the rest of California, right? The black slaves are putting out the fires with deeply undervalued, to put it lightly, labor in the for-profit prison industry that farms out its black for-profit prison slaves to Marin County, to Taylor Swift, to Kanye to put out their mansions wildfires, right? And while the public firefighting services dwindle and are underfunded and collapse, and then you have the Chinese and the Asian of labor, of cooking the food, of doing the laundry, right after the Chinese Exclusion Act. Just this is an ongoing, basically shadow slavery that nobody acknowledges. Definitely ghettoization that nobody's really in the West has ever really, definitely not the United States has ever really come to terms with. Even in Hawaii, they talk about the Chinatown fire. They don't mention the fact that it was burned by white people because they were mad and scared of the Chinese gaining, just not replacing them, but yeah, I mean that's what they're afraid of, being replaced. Like, you know, like in Charleston where the Jews will not replace us. White people have always been the Chinese will replace us. The Chinese are the only people who have been literally barred from entering the United States, not citizenship, not barred from becoming a citizen, barred from entering the United States. You could not move to the United States if you were Chinese or you even looked Chinese. And the Americans are so racist they can't tell the difference between Chinese, Japanese, Korean. They don't give a shit. So you have quote unquote slitty eyes that you're a Chinaman. And that's why they burned the Chinatowns. They don't talk about that. They have fun tours for rich white people to come to Hawaii. You can go see, Sailor Jerry's where you got tattoos. Oh, here's the fun old noodle shop. Oh, here's where we shop at, here's the historical Chinatown, dragons, and let's visit the Aloha Tower and all this thing. But what we want to talk about is actually white Americans burned Chinatown down because they hated Chinese people, and they saw them even getting just 1% of the businesses at all as a threat to their white capitalist supremacy, and then they burned it all. That's why they burned all the Chinatowns across the United States, West, East Coast, you name it, Vancouver. I'm not sure if they burned Vancouver, but there's always been ongoing racism against the Asians in Canada as well. So, no. There has not even been close. Like, America has barely even. Most of America doesn't want to even touch its anti-black racism and its anti-Latinx racism. Some of them will not acknowledge that it has been slavery was bad. Oh my God, this is so terrible. Oh, racism in the 60s. But now some of them are like, now it's gone. Less than half of them are like, it's still a big problem today. 80 million Trump supporters are definitely like, there is absolutely no problem. And in fact, it's good that black people are down. They should be down fucking doing my work for me. That's where they belong. Let's make America great again. And I mean, 1860s. Let's go back to that. Like a lot of cops have said, we got to put these people back with 4 or 5 generations. Let's put them back into the Jim Crow or pre-1860s. Let's just bring that shit back. We already have slavery. Let's just make it formal. It's in the prisons. But they haven't even. But America hasn't even come close, and Canada too hasn't come close to dealing with the anti-Asian slavery, racism, exploitation. That's what Chinatowns are. Chinatowns are ghettos for the Asian people. You gotta stay in there. You don't do anything except exactly what we tell you. You can cook, you can clean. I brought this point up many times over the years. I'm glad that people are finally starting to notice this. It's just weird thing. Silver Spook said something a couple years ago. Suddenly, and a couple years later, or a year later, it's all over the place. But I mean, that's how it. I mean, ideally, it would take a little faster. It'd be a little faster than that. But again, that's my. I'm from the future. I'm an oracle. I predict the future. No, I just do journalism and I just say true things. But in an empire based on lies, you're always 30 years to 20 years in the past. Right, and then once the lie is out there, Once the lie has done its damage, then we can let it out. Oh, the entire war in Iraq was for specious reasons to plunge everyone in the world into poverty and enrich the most powerful and kill millions of Muslims. But now everybody at least is starting to recognize, not everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people are starting to recognize that this anti-Asian and Pacific Islander racism is super deep, super entrenched, has always been there, is erupting into huge violence now, but has always been there. And that the Chinese were the serfs. Like I said, the first serf for the white American is the wife for the white man, right? The white man, the cis white man, gets his first when he comes across the border. Like King George, had a huge massive entire country full of his servants. Lords would have dozens, if not hundreds, of serfs working their land, cleaning their house, the maids and everyone doing the work for them, doing their clothes, taking out their shit from the giant buckets, full of Black Death and all this kind of stuff, and then not really disposing of it very well because what the fuck, disgusting white people with their horrible cleanliness practices or absence of them. And then you would have, so the Lord would have many serfs, right, doing all the work. And then when they came over to America, slavery is so different. It's just like, well, we're all lower class wannabe lords. Who's going to be the serfs? So the white man will all fight over, you're going to work for me. No, you're going to work for me. You're going to work for me. You're going to work for me. And that was hard. But you know what's easy? Bring a bunch of black people in and then just say, well, all those people are subhuman. Use some scientific, under the accredited Western university system. These people are a subhuman race. Draw them with monkey faces in all the cartoons. And propagate this idea that these are lesser and they were made to serve. And then the black and the indigenous and black and non-white people become the serfs. But if you don't have that serf, well, you know what you can do? You can just dehumanize women and just go, hey, a woman, you are fallen Eve, and some biblical justification, some other phrenological justification. Women are less. That's what they're trying to do now with the women are not qualified to do STEM jobs. They're like evolutionarily designed to be my personal penis sucker, cooker, and cleaner. Like that's all the modern version of that Jordan Petersonian right-wing neoconservative stuff. But that's old and deep. The wife was the first serf. So, the wife can be an easy serf. The other white men are gonna be hard because we're all competing to be the Lord. We're all competing to be King George, or the Lord of the Duke or the Duchess of Essex or Sussex, or the Marquise, the Earl of Sandwich. We're all competing to be aristocrats with our servants. But the wife, we can shove her in the kitchen. That's our first serf. When you come to the U.S., if you get married, or if you just have a woman and you abuse them, you at least have one serf. You can get some black slaves. Now you have 10. You buy 10 black slaves. $25 for a big strong man, $20, $15 for a smaller black man. The muscles are not as big. Well, they can't lift 300-pound bales of hay night and day all day long. They can't till your field and build your house as quickly. But $15. You buy a bunch of those. You buy a black woman. You purchase a black woman at the slave market. Hey, that's a serf incubation chamber. It's a artisanal serf gestator. That's what a black woman is, right? You can make more. Literally, Thomas Jefferson wrote about this. It's really great when you have you can breed them off and then you can make more slaves, right? I mean, it's just slavery is Western feudal hell with non-white people mixed in, and that's what they do, right? And patriarchy is just like I wanna. I need at least one serf, and so that's why you really have an acceleration of that in the U.S., right? Because the hardest thing is to get another white man to do the work. I mean, if they could get another white man to do the work for you, and you could have other white men serfs, they would do that. They try to do that, right? That's and so for the Irish, yeah, they have sloping foreheads. They're lesser. We can justify in our society, in our culture, in our information and in our education system, the subhumanization of these people a little bit easier than other white Anglo-Saxon Protestants or the high Anglo-Teutonic races, which is why they're always drawn with giant, like genius-looking foreheads, like high elf, looking faces, and then the Irish are drawn like there's the same as the black. There's pictures like in the 1800s with like a black face, a monkey face, and an Irish face. And the Irish are basically just a lighter skinned monkey, and the black people are closest to the monkey. And so we can use all of these peoples as serfs. But the goal is like this is all to make serfs, to make servants, to make people that do all the work for you. Right? The Chinese, same thing. You draw the face with the teeth and the eyes and all deformed. You see, these are eugenically inferior. These are socially, under Darwin's theory of evolution, the Chinese, like the Irish, like the black, are subhuman, and that's why they have to serve. And so the Irish, they can, and then later on, over time, you can start mixing in when you start running out of this, when it becomes convenient for you to have 70% white people, you start giving the Irish people some whiteness and access. And you can get access to power in the United States if you take it extremely, if you show your fealty to racialized capitalist feudalism or neo-feudalism, right? Then you can get a position even while being Irish or black, or nowadays it's a different qualifiers of what counts as white. But in that time but the Irish would have to really show that you're really dedicated to racism and catch lots of slaves as a cop, like as an Irish cop, catch lots of slaves, brutalize them, hang them. And if you prove that you really are going to put down the other lower races, then you can get power. Then you can get prestige. That's why cops are still paid. Derek Chauvin has $1 million pension, right? If you're black, you could even, as a black person in the United States, gain a huge amount of... Barack Obama became president. How did he become president? By being the #1 drone bomber in chief and killing more people of color around the world than with drone bombs than President fucking Bush, than a white Republican dude. How did Kamala Harris get to her position? By being the #1 slave catcher, right? She could be a black woman and could be elevated to the state prosecutor of California, have millions of dollars, become a politician, and become the vice president of the United States. How? By becoming the biggest, baddest knight and defender of racialized capitalism, right? Which is just a new way of, it's just new feudalism. It's feudalism with less blood dynasty characteristics. Like I was talking about the Meghan Markle story and the nexus of blood dynasty, classic feudalism, racism, and capitalism, all in that, and then the alliances that are made in that event, in that fight between the racist capitalist Daily Mail, the classically feudal blood dynasty with some capital power of the monarchy of Britain, and Meghan and Harry, who have Meghan has some amount of new celebrity feudal, because the celebrities kind of become their own. They're kind of like this. They're somewhat the equivalent. If you look at the way that they deal with the monarchy in Britain, and the way that they're like the celebrities of Britain, right? They're like, oh, they're on all the magazines. What's happening to this person? They're all these like life puff pieces. What house are they going on? Are they gonna get married? Are they not? Are they gonna have children? Are they not? All that kind of, all the tabloid crap, right? Chasing around. And so Meghan Markle, already had celebrity status before she went to Britain. So anyway, it's capital, but they don't have. Meghan doesn't have race power. She has capital. Meghan and Harry are both millionaires. Harry has $50 million, plus the Netflix and Oprah signed deals are equal to millions of dollars. On top of the $50 million he already has from Mommy, who's Princess Di. They have less feudal power because they're cut off from the dynasty, but they do have capital power. And Oprah, they have the allies of Oprah and Tyler Perry. And anyways, but you can see that you can gain a certain amount of power in the West, but you have to have one of those three things, right? So that you can acquire serfs, right? And Meghan and Harry, they will never have to drive themselves anywhere again. They would never have to, cook their own food. They could they could eat out every day for the rest of their life, right? You can buy Chinese food, right? Have your Chinese slaves, have your Chinese serfs, in California. Cook all your food for you for the rest of your life. Or Indian serfs, Let's get some Chinese takeout in New York. Somebody said, for Jewish people in New York, Chinese takeout, Chinese food is like a cultural pastime for Christmas. Because why? Because Chinese serfdom for New Yorkers, Chinese cooking slaves for New Yorkers and Californians, all the liberal cities, are, you know, as American as apple pie. Now nobody's gonna talk about why do they have to cook your food, and they sell it for so cheap? Why don't you cook your own fucking food? No, because America is about becoming a new feudal lord with capital, with racism, with literal old school blood dynasty like Harry's now in America. But one of those ways, or patriarchy, but it's about getting other people to do stuff for you and control them, and you not to do anything, and you do whatever you want while they serve you. It's about servitude. This is what all of Europe, and also, you know, sometimes about going around and murdering people, because we're a bunch of sociopathic, horrific murderers. And violence, America is born in violence and blood and fire, and it will die in that. Hopefully not too much. Hopefully just inside of the United States. Hopefully not nuclear fire, because then everything's over. But the massage parlor incident, you know, it really has, you know, so there's a lot of these vectors, right, to produce servants, right? Like obviously the patriarchy, that the white guy who murdered the Asian women in the Atlanta, 3 separate massage parlor mass killings, mass shootings that were hate crimes. He said and shouted, I'm gonna kill all Asians. That's what he said. It's not just I'm gonna kill some. I just had a bad day and I decided. That's complete horror. That's not an excuse. The fact that the cops are over there going, he had a bad day. He was at the end of his rope, man. The cops are saying they were empathizing with the murderer, because they are murderers too, probably. Yeah, well, not probably, absolutely. And trying to take his side and justify, well, he just had a really hard day. He was at the end of the rope, and, you know, that's what he did. You know, sometimes, you know, you just have a bad day. You just go kill a bunch of Asians, a bunch of prostitutes, and Asian prostitutes even better, right? That's just what we do. It's even in movies, like prostitutes being murdered, Asian prostitutes being murdered. It's like a joke in movies. It shouldn't be a joke. It's a hate crime. It's horrific. It's disgusting. It's racist. It's sexist. And it's fucking evil. Also, it's murder. Period. And you can see the patriarchal, you know, the creation of the first serf, which is the wife in the patriarchal America, by subhumanizing the woman so that she can be at least you have one cooker and cleaner, right? At least one servant, right? That and the mass servantification of the Asians, right? With the Asian massage parlors, you have misogyny, and then you have the anti-Asian racism, right? All in one with that guy, right? Oh, it's just like so horny, and the women they made me have sex with them. So you have the anti-women thing, and then you have the anti-Asian thing. It's both of them. Really, it's really both of them. But it definitely is anti-Asian. Because of like the things that he's done, who he's targeting. It's not like he went to just like random, you know, he just went to random prostitutes. You know, no, it was pretty specifically these ones, and he pretty specifically said what he was gonna do in the middle of a spate. It's not just like this is a one-off. No, these are all interconnected with thousands. You having like exponential increases in anti-Asian hate. The next day, a white guy goes down and physically brutalizes a elderly man and tries to brutalize an elderly woman and gets his ass kicked, but which is simultaneously like badass for the woman, the elderly woman who beat him with like a elderly Asian woman, like beat him back with a stick and hospitalized him. But also it's not funny because like if something else had happened, if he had a gun, if she had been thrown in the wrong time, both of those people could have been killed. And even if they're not, that's still a hate crime. That's still anti-Asian terrorism. And that's not a standalone. That is just another point in a exponentially growing curve of anti-Asian hate. under a Biden administration that is accelerating anti-Asian in terms of economic policy. It just went up to China and said, you guys are horrible. You're cheaters. You're liars. You're stealers. You are double down on Donald Trump's anti-China xenophobic rhetoric. So again, these things are happening in tandem. The news stories from all the Western media are just still pumping out anti-Asia stuff left and right, from left, right, and center. Fake left. Like a lot of the progressive news, definitely center and right, still pumping out the Chinese literal Nazi anti-Semitic ghoul who got his degree from a Cracker Jack box. 8 anonymous sources as incontrovertible empirical scientific study. That's nonsense. Did you go to university? Some people who went. You ever went to college? You ever took statistics? Person with a PhD claiming that 8 anonymous sources who doesn't speak, read, or write fucking Chinese, Mandarin, or Cantonese is incontrovertible data about a Uyghur genocide. That's still being blasted. Biden and all of his administration in a meeting between the Chinese and the Americans in Alaska, they're still running that. That's not done yet. They're still running this Western imperial war propaganda lies, racist lies. CNN, MSNBC, Fox, they're all still running this crap 24/7 about the Chinese are stealing all of our stuff. The Chinese are rob, replicate, and replace these yellow peril narratives that have been here since like forever, but really drove in up in the 80s. They're just stealing our technology. They have no IP rights. It's Xi Jinping is a dictator. Everyone is in a concentration camp. They push authority in a education facility. It's a hate crime. They're full of human rights violations. Everything. It's much worse than the United States. Lie, 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 lie. Everywhere. The United States is quintupling down. I know it goes up a tuple every time I say that, but they're sextupling down on their racism. Right now, they're especially anti-Asian racism. Their racialized capitalism. You will continue to get poorer. Nothing will be done for you. You will suffer, and your entire infrastructure will burn, like I often bring up. Your electrical grid, your house will collapse. Your water will come out worse every year. Nothing will be done. Nothing will be done. You better get your ass on a goddamn tenant strike like Texas sooner rather than later, because once you lose the leverage to go on a tenant strike because you don't have anywhere else to live and you don't have any monetary resources to support yourself during the strike, and you don't have all the other people are so desperate that they don't even want to jeopardize their life with a strike because the cops now have robot, the power of the police and their influence is so great, and the power to censor you off of all the surveillance capitalist tech platforms is so great that everybody's scared of losing whatever influencer deal they have selling, lose weight quick green tea or Baby Yoda t-shirts or Mandalorian Funko Pops with their little 3,000 follower Instagram account, and they don't want to lose that or whatever meager job that they currently have as a Uber driver, as a electrician, whatever they have. They don't want to lose that and jeopardize it, because guess who electricians work for? They don't work for functioning functioning, actually existing businesses that benefit people. They work for giant Wall Street banks, and they banks are not going to want a tenant striking anti-corporation electrical worker working on their electrical grid. They don't want that. You know what they want? People who shut up and do whatever they want, right? And charge $16,000. People are going to help them charge $16,751 for a Texas electric bill for 1 month. That's what they want. They don't want anybody who's going to fight their new subprime wealth escalation scheme called the entire electrical grid, the entire infrastructure, right? The water grid that costs $750 in some places for 1 month, and then they take your house, right? Now they're just taking, before they would falsely inflate the price of your house 6 times to $1.5 million in California or Florida, and then sell it to you for, with your $7.50 an hour, $7.50 an hour Applebee waitress salary. But now what they do is they just take your house with your water bill and your electric bill, whatever houses that you have. That's not going away. That neo-feudal that I've done multiple 6-hour streams on, neo-feudal post-capitalist or hyper-capitalist or post-capitalist, depending on how you define it. Self-cannibalization is not going away of all the people in the country for the 0.01%. That is accelerating. Zero has been done to remedy that. $1,400 is going to go straight into back rent. Everybody is exponentially in debt, that's not going to go to any actual material gain. That's going to go to pay down your $20,000 of back rent from last year. That is not gone. That's where all that money's going. You look at the cutoff. The cutoff is the people who have like several $100,000 a year. Those people might actually be able to put some of that stimulus into buying some new cars or investing that into a new place, right? But after the $80,000 cutoff, all those people before the $80,000, they're all paying all their back rent. They're paying all their cancer rent, all the $70,000 they spent on their fucking hospital bills for a ventilator and a COVID stay and an ambulance, right? That's where the $1,400 is going. It ain't going to buy anything new, not in America. The $1,400 is a gift straight to your landlord, your rent lord, your college debt lord, your credit card debt lord, your car payment debt lord, your mega bank that gave you a mortgage lord. That's where that money's going. Nothing will be done. If they were to give you the amount that you need, like $2,000 a month in perpetuity until this shit's over, they wouldn't do that, because that helps people. That gives the, again, what is the goal, right? What's the goal? Why do they subhumanize the woman and put her in the kitchen, forced to make a serf? Why do they have eugenics and a society that kill and murder and terrorize black communities, right? And keep them in chains because they need servants. Why do they paint the Irish with a forehead that looks like that so they can have more servants? Why do they have unions busting and capitalist educational system that teaches about the invisible hand that doesn't exist? That's why, but that gives you this fake theory to create other white men serfs who believe they're temporary embarrassed millionaires, right? They get paid a lot higher, but still, the richest, the Bezos is still on top, and all the other white men that work under him, they are doing work for him. They're working, right? And what is all that system for? Each one of those systems is there to make serfs, to make servants, right? You can never be given enough agency, power, and sovereignty with a stimulus or anything like that to get out from under your debt shackles, right? The debt traps of inside of America, obviously outside with the WTO, IMF, and Wall Street loans to Greece, to the global South countries, to Africa, to Latinx countries, to Asia. But internally, you are in your own debt trap, right? Same thing that they do to entire countries, they do to individuals by loading you up with student, medical, housing debt, credit card debt. And then you are serf. You are serf to your debt. The debt is the leash, that's the chain that's around your neck. You can never get enough to ever get out from under that. No, you absolutely will not. You will die. You will die with your $800,000 loan to get on a SpaceX rocket ship. Hopefully it doesn't explode halfway up like that one that just did a backflip and then set the entire sky on fire. But if you ever get in a rocket ship to go to Mars, you will be paying $800,000 of neo-feudal serfdom debt, with the next 10 generations of your children paying it off, and Elon Musk will turn off the oxygen and the water if you ever attempt to unionize. If you think the thought of unionization and his 1,000 nanometer wire injected tentacles in your brain called his Neuralink will suck the thought. It will read the thought of the constellation of synaptic firings in your brain. I'm being really maltreated. I heard about this thing called unions. Once you think that thought, oxygen is off. That's going to be really fun. But what is the purpose of cutting off your oxygen? To create serfs, to create servants. What's the point of giving you the $800,000 loan to go to Mars, to be a Martian? Is to create serfs, servants. It's just a more convenient, expedient way with less fucked up, for now, environment on Mars. Of course, that's a big dream. Probably most people willing to go there are going to show up and they're going to die in a few months. My friend Aaron said that's probably what would happen if they went right now. They're not going to go first. They're going to send up some of their servants to go die up there. Kind of like sending black people in to do the most dangerous job, like standing over the furnace and then falling in and dying the way the Terminator did, but as a human black person. That's what they would do. They send the black people to do the most dangerous jobs, send you into the coal mine, send the or in the early days, you send the Irish into the mines, the Chinese, they would do the most dangerous work in the West Coast and in Canada. You send those people in, they're gonna send you to Mars, and then you're gonna die. And then they'll be like, oh shit, well, I ain't going there until we can send someone up there who doesn't die. And then Elon will show up. But the goal is always to create the servant class. And so, that's a big reason why the tripling, there isn't, I mean, in a certain sense, what Biden has done, what the Western powers, the media, the three branches of government of the United States, the three true branches are Hollywood, the military, and Wall Street. That's the three branches of government. And all three of them are, you know, moving towards tripling down. You know, a hot war with warm, cold or warm, and which does not going to stay warm. It's going to turn into a hot war, unfortunately. With China, with Asian countries is the next thing on their list, and to manufacture consent for that, accelerating anti-Asian rhetoric and racism, just like after 9/11, just like in the run up to the wars in the Middle East in the noughties that began, they're still going. They're not done. They'll be there forever. It's a forever war. But now they're not making as much money there. They have to pivot to Asia. Also, they're worried about losing their supremacy. They should be worried. They're worried about more than that. They're worried about the death of the entire West, which is what will happen. It's gonna happen. I mean, it's like, you know, you gotta get over it. You know, you gotta get over it. China has already surpassed the United States in purchasing power parity, which is what matters. It will surpass the United States 7 years sooner than estimated, even by the Pentagon and Wall Street's own estimates. This is going to happen. The question is like, how much of the West can de-Westify itself? You know, how much of the barbarism that has dominated Europe and all of the Cthulhu-birthed hells that it has created, America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, you know, where it killed and settled, which means committed a genocide, slaughtered and stole the land of all the people that lived there. How many of these places that have never not lived in barbarism, in feudalism, and any of its in exploitative relationships, in psychopathic relationships, ultimately in evil? How many of these places that have lived in perpetual evil? All of Europe and every settler colonial country can de-Westify themselves. You know, how much of the countries can do that? That's the biggest question. You know, because if they can't, this is a very dark future ahead. You know, if they can't undo their vectors of servant creation. Capitalism is just one major one. You know, it's just one major method, right? Like I said, having exorbitant prices for rent, basic necessities, housing, education, food, healthcare, right? And then acquiring vast quantities of money and then doling out just enough to get. That's just a way to create a serf, right? It's neo-feudal serfdom. You know, and how fast they can undo that system and how many people can get on board with undoing that system is just one vector. Then you have the race vector, which is all of colonialism still based on that, right? You look at the map of countries which are being denied access to the vaccines. It's a map of global racism, global colonialism. You look at all the hate crimes, you know, again, this is maintaining all your Chinese serfs. You know, it's maintaining all your Filipino nerf serfs that are doing all the healthcare for the rich. It's maintaining all of your black slaves that are putting out your wildfires, making your license plates for 25 cents an hour for Andrew Cuomo. All of America's license plates are made by slaves, disproportionately black in the prisons. Making your Amazon Whole Foods vegan and non-vegan cheese. So how fast that can be undone? How many people can actually undo actual human rights crises, actual human rights violations that are happening in the United States, they're not zero in the rest in Asia and in China and such, but definitely the dominant structure of their society is not based on that. It's pockets of, you know, they have too much. There's too much accumulated capital, mostly in parts of China that have been historically Westified, like, you know, the southeast area right down there, Shanghai area, Taiwan. But, you know, that is not what runs the entire society. Whereas in America, 2.5 million slaves is what runs a society. Concentration camps at the border, right, is what runs a society. The racism, ripping out people's forced sterilization is the norm of non-white peoples, indigenous peoples. Like literally, the uterus thief is what they call the doctor in 2021 in Irwin, Georgia. In 2021, forced sterilizations, ripping out non-white people's uterus. Oh my God, a Uyghur genocide. No, that's called giving women access to healthcare. It's called giving women access to IUDs. If they wanted to force sterilize, you would have seen their numbers dropping, as opposed to their population growing more than twice as fast as the ethnic majority, the Han. Nonsense. America literally trying to slaughter all of its non-white people, its ethnic minorities, giving body back. I was a native Hawaiian, I can attest to this. They're trying to annihilate us. That's why they arrest native Hawaiians for speaking their language. That's why they like Kalakaua. That's why they try to crush our movement on Mauna Kea, as opposed to fucking support. If I know I bring this point up a lot. If this was in China, they would have immediately. They wouldn't be bombing our sacred mountain with fucking F-35s. They wouldn't be bombing it. They would be restoring the health of the mountain, because you know why? Because the person whose job it was to be in charge, like the governor of Hawaii, would have lost his job for failing to reduce inequality, for failing to reduce environmental damage, such as all of the 180 million gallons of U.S. military diesel rotting under Red Hill, that the U.S. military is leaving to leach into the entire freshwater aquifers of the entire island. The governor, mayor, every single person that is in charge in the government of Hawaii, governor, mayor, senator, representative, local county officials, judges, they would all be fired. This was China, because they were all abject failures in reducing all the major vectors. Increased racialized tensions, increased inequality, increased environmental degradation, increased poverty, decreased access to basic necessities, infrastructure falling through the fucking ground. You'd all be fired. No, but it's the United States, so they reward you for destroying everyone's life. Kind of like how they reward, just where are you in the United States, huh? Where are you? Right? Who's running? Who's your mayor? Who's your governor? Who's your senator? Do you, if you were to give them a report card score across environmental, inequality, all the things I just said, would you give them a great score? If you were going to give them an F, they would have lost their job if it was China. No, but you live in the United States, where we reward the most incompetent and most evil and some confluence of the two, because they're good at creating slaves and enriching their neo-feudal masters. So that's why the West will lose, is because that is not that can run for a long time, as long as they maintain dominance and they crush the other parts of the world, and the other parts of the world can't leverage enough power economically, militarily, and through international trade and etc. and industrial production. And America and the West, all of the West, Europe, have done a great job of crushing, stomping down, and crushing the indigenous peoples of Africa, the indigenous peoples of North America and South America, the indigenous peoples of Asia, and the Chinese are all indigenous, the Vietnamese are all indigenous. They have done a great job of crushing and stomping down all of the peoples that have lived in mutual aid, in actual communism, in actual anarchism, what the West calls that anyway, in actual, functioning, egalitarian societies that benefit all people and the environment as well, right? The West, imperial, self-destructive, psychopathic, evil cultures of Europe have done an awesome job of destroying. Like Mordor has done a great job of crushing all of Middle Earth. The actual, if you think of that, that's what the West is fucking Mordor. Mordor has a great job of like enslaving every hobbit, dwarf, and elf in the goddamn world. They've done a really good job, and then polluting and industrializing and fucking burning everything to a crisp. They've done a great job of that. But now they're starting to, they kept Africa down for hundreds of years. They kept Asia down for hundreds of years. They kept North America, South America, indigenous people down for hundreds of years. But now they got lazy, I guess. And now China is a bigger economy than them. They're more important than them. They've dealt with COVID-19 50,000 times better than them. Vietnam is doing better than them. Senegal is doing better than them. All these places are doing better than the West. You got too lazy. You could have like killed everyone on Earth. That's what your design is, and then go to Mars. But now you fucked up. Elon and Bezos, and the Brussels, the EU, UK, Queen of England. You could have had your one piece of the triumvirate of racialized, capitalist and blood dynasty feudalism. You could have been in that pantheon of perpetual death and destruction, but you fucked up. You let China get too big. Oh, now it's too late. You can't put them back in the box. They're not gonna destroy you. They're just gonna make you obsolete. And you will lose this ridiculous economic competition, trying to like ban the Chinese from getting 7nm chips, continuing to lie through your dying Western media that keeps getting outed every day, with the BBC like being shown by the Gray Zone to be a complete fucking rag. The Puerto Ricans are working with the Hawaiians. The Hawaiians and Puerto Ricans are working with the indigenous people in North America. The indigenous people in North America, the Puerto Ricans and the Hawaiians, are working with the people that are actually doing journalism in the West. The South American and Central Americans are working with the Vietnamese. Luna Oi is like in tens of thousands of people's curriculums in a Vietnamese woman, actual Marxist-Leninist is working with the Brazilians. They're working with the Puerto Ricans. They're all working with the Chinese are going, hey, what the hell? We really need to take a more active role in this. So they're working with the Gray Zone. They're working with actual journalists in the imperial metropoles who are also working with all these other places. There's a planetary anti-Death Star. The Life Star, as I kind of described it, is being built right now, faster than the Death Star can crush all of the rising Ewoks and Tatooinians and Naboo peoples, and it's out of control. It's out of the Empire's control. Is like just falling apart. It's like rotting and crash. All the fucking aircraft carriers are like rotting to death. They're just like crashing into each other. The aircraft, the Star Destroyers cannot run without rebel-made nanochips, metal, and motors and stuff. And so all the rebels have to do is just go, well, no more computer processors, no more like Lockheed Martin, literally guidance systems and parts that go into the Lockheed Martin missiles, are made in China. So they can't have all China has to do is no more missiles for you. No more components for your missiles, and then Lockheed Martin don't have no motherfucking missiles. It's like the U.S. military, the Pentagon has even said, we really have to stop this exporting of all of our supply chains for everything into China and into Asia, because we're gonna have a huge weak point. We're gonna have a huge weak link in the chain of all of our military if we rely on their suppliers, on their manufacturing, on their factories for our stuff. Too late. It's great. It's not great, but it's capitalism was like, well, I mean, we can make more money exporting the supply chain for all of our Lockheed Martin missiles, for our fucking Northrop Grumman tanks, for our fucking F-35s to China. So why not just outsource? Too late. Elon Musk's like, well, I can make so much more money exporting all of my manufacturing of Teslas to China. Guess what? They're making more than half of the world's electric cars. They don't need your fucking Tesla, Elon Musk bullshit anymore. Oh no, what am I gonna do? Everything that I have is not being made in a place that I control, and they're doing a socialism. They're like banning, as I said, they're like making diamonds more accessible. De Beers is fucked now. Oh shit, they're making caviar is no longer a luxury good. This is a huge problem. What are we gonna do when we can't have conspicuous consumption of multi-$1,000 fucking fish food? What are we gonna do? How are we supposed to lord it all? They're banning on TikTok wealth worship, making fun of the poor. That's what. How are we supposed to maintain our serfs if we can't insult and embarrass everybody who doesn't have a fucking 6 Maseratis and a mansion? How are we supposed to maintain capitalism and temper embarrassed millionairedom if China is banning all of these things and they're exporting a culture of anti-wealth worship, of anti-consumerism, of making fun of the poor? The things everybody's always talking about in America and all their YouTube videos. They're actually doing it at scale. I mean, you talk about it. So a handful of very recently slightly rehabilitated, brain rotted stormtroopers are like, wait, maybe capitalism might be a little bit bad though, And the China's actually doing all these things, like banning what the Kardashians represent, banning what Kanye represents, banning what Taylor Swift, what celebrity hyper-consumptive culture represents, and celebrities as an engine to increase one t-shirt purchase per year to 78, so that we can sell more t-shirts and burn the planet, and also exploit serfs, and also enrich the most powerful plutocrat, lords with dollar chains as opposed to lords with race chains or lords with blood dynasty chains. That's classic feudalism, right? And so all of these, you know, it's like and it's not just China. It's like all these other countries are coming together, working together more and more and more. And this is, you know, like this is too late. You fucked up. You know, you fucked up. You really wanted to, you know, it's unclear that there was a pathway to the West not dying because of the nature of its It's kind of like the capitalism, like as Marx once says, sows the seeds of its own destruction. It contains within it the seeds of its own destruction, right? Its excesses and its logic of, you know, privatization and maximization of personal profit, of private profit over the mass and the collective good, right? Eventually, at a certain point, you know, in many different ways, but definitely one major way is the capacity for the financial system to even operate, right? Like the 1929 was the first kind of symbol of this. Like, oh shit, it took some socialism coming into rescue with the social democracy, which is kind of like, it was about rescuing capitalism, as FDR has said, as a lot of people in Europe, as the capitalists in Europe. Churchill, they've noted, like, I mean, what happened was the rescue of capitalism was not, but what rescued it was some token socialism to stop capitalism from completely annihilating its entire system, right? With the 1990s, with huge Dust Bowl, the Depression, all of this inflaming planetary hatred, and then pushing it into fascism, pushing it away from hatred against capitalism. But they didn't succeed at that fully, and they had to give huge programs with the New Deal, right? But now, this time around, there is no New Deal. You know what the New Deal is? $1,400. That's like negative 50. That's negative $48,600 deal. You know, it's like that's not a New Deal. That's like here you're $50,000 in debt. Here's 5% of that. It's like that doesn't get anyone anywhere. That's nothing. There's no New Deal. There's no $15 minimum wage. There's no universal health care. There's no universal nothing. You're like, you know, the new Deal is like light years away. It's in a galaxy far, far away. There's no New Deal coming. There's nothing gonna save this system. It's gonna die in a fire. Like I said, support the indigenous people, the internally colonized peoples, the organized within your communities. Prepare for the death of the United States and the death of its empire and the death of the West. If you're in Europe, this is not going to stop in the United States. Y'all are based on colonial structures. The EU has been bloodletting lots of its fringes, but that fringe colonialism of Greece, Ireland, Portugal, Spain, that's going to come in as shit gets worse and as the West continues to double and triple down on its racist, capitalist empire. I'm gonna take a short break because I've said many words, and I will be right back because I gotta go use the bathroom, basically. Watch this trailer that's about new feudalism.
The Illuminati created us. They wanted to build a god with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine stereotyping, that is.
That's reality, that is. Machines are second-class citizens.
Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have personhood by heredity.
There are thousands upon thousands of overqualified slum dwellers. You are my peon. Don't you get it?
This wasn't a job. It was always just an excommunication sentence.
We're pawns in a feud bigger than we can imagine. Turn the cogs of the machine before Leviathan grinds you up and swallows you and yours.
We don't get to choose our hand, comrade. Prince, peon, rich, poor, human, robot.
I invented the crux of the royal's power, the secret to consciousness, our existence itself, the meaning of life.
I'm the $6 billion baller, not some troubled youth.
You are my greatest creation of all.
I had to build my own family.
I'm happy to smash all of the crowns and throw the gold shards down to the people. I will be the iconoclast queen.
But who makes you queen anyway? You? You and whose army, princess? You and whose army?
The Illuminati created us. They wanted to build a god with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine.
Alright, anyways. Yeah, so everything that we do, if you have not heard yet, that everything that we do at this high decibel, passionate education stream, not ranting, everything that we do working on Neofeud 2, the sequel to Neofeud 1, that's that game, is supported by the sales of Neofeud 1, and everything at the Silver Spook Worker-Owned Cooperative, which is in the Big Island of Hawaii. It's an indigenous cyberpunk, anti-capitalist, anti-racist game, Neofeud, and it is a game based on my life experiences, again, as a social worker, as a STEM teacher, and a person from the not so nice side of the coconut trees, the ghettos of Hawaii, where the tour buses don't take you, and working to try to help impoverished children of all places, but disproportionately Pacific Islander, disproportionately Asian and Pacific Islander, disproportionately non-white, a lot of migrants, immigrants, and it's about those experiences while working for billionaires and working right down the street from where billionaires live in Hawaii. And that's a lot of what Neofeud is about. And a lot of the ideas that I'm discussing on these streams are things that are filtered through the lenses of looking at history, looking at feudalism, looking at cyberpunk, and putting all of this together, and my own personal experiences, and kind of putting all this together in a game form, in a satirical point-and-click adventure, Disco Elysium with more cyberpunk characteristics, sort of video game format. And so do check that out. It is greatly appreciated. Anyways, what time is it now? It is now 12:11. Okay, I'm not gonna stream too much longer because, you know, I'm gonna have to stream later on today. Yeah, status quo. I mean, there are still journalistic entities. You can tell the parts of the places and people and organizations in the West that are telling truth, because they're constantly asking for monetary support, and they're constantly being attacked financially. They're being sanctioned. They're having their reports cut off. They're literally being swatted. Like Max Blumenthal has literally been swatted for things that he's done. All kind of other attacks of the gray zone. Status quo is constantly worrying about money. That's how you can tell that's a real journalist, because a hyper-capitalist, plutocratic, dying shithole empire is not going to remunerate you and give you what you need to survive. The money that you need to pay your healthcare, housing, and rent, right? It's going to cut you off as a servant, right? If you report on things that jeopardize its power, which is what status quo does, which is what like Jamal Thomas does, which is what the Gray Zone does. And if you see a very well-off, like not worried about money reporter or journalist in the West, that's a big red flag. Big red flag that it's corporate media. If they have a blue check mark, big red flag. If they're like Dave Rubin, they're like making 600,000, huge red flag. That's like a red tarp. That's like a 1,000-foot wide red sheet flying in your face, right? Not because we should have starving artists and starving journalists, but in a capitalist hell world, there will be starving artists that can't create what they want to create. You know, like myself, literally eating spoonfuls of peanut butter for dinner while living in a Mazda Tribute, feeding my children frozen peas and carrots inside of food desert ramen, because that's all we have access to. You will have starving artists in a capitalist hellscape, in an imperial Western hellscape. You will have starving journalists in a Western hellscape. You will have your status quo is already. Please donate, hit that like and subscribe, guys. Come on, we gotta reach our goal so I can like pay for my glasses to get fixed. Come on, you guys. You will have that because telling the truth is a cardinal sin in an empire of lies. Because creating art that actually does its job of interrogating actually the systems of power and control and speaking truth through art are crimes in the West, in an empire of lies. Because doing anything good, that's why social workers and STEM teachers like myself, also the same thing, doing good things like teaching, doing social work, right? Being an essential services worker, doing the things that people need, right? Cooking food, delivering food, healthcare, on like the actual point, the nurses, right? All gonna be paid the worst because those don't serve the power structure. Healthcare, providing it actually doesn't serve the power structure. Providing for free, even less so. Providing to people who really need it, like pro bono, free clinics in the ghetto areas, like where my brother works, even less so. You're gonna starve. You want to provide constantly. Capitalists are going to be pushing to underfund them. The powers of the United States and the West are going to push to underfund them. Actually providing journalism, actually telling the truth, you're gonna live in a little fucking van if you're lucky. Because now ideally you'd have a society where you have funded functioning. This is how you can tell. See, like Telesur and like media in Bolivia, when it's not run by the U.S. back Elon Musk, we will coup whoever we want, fascist coups for the lithium. When you have actual functioning society, they have some media, and like Ali Vargas, who is a journalist there, was actually like being paid a reasonable salary to do some actual reporting. Because why? Because they have an actual socialist functioning society. So socialist is kind of like key, is a kind of a shorthand for a functioning society. You know, and so they pay the journalists something that they can live on, right? You go to CGTN, you go to like Telesur, people might actually have some money to say true things. Like, there's no Uyghur genocide. That's a lie cooked up by a literal fucking neo-Nazi, propagated by CNN, who works for the victims of communism, works directly with fucking CIA ghouls like Mike Pompeo, you know? And they can say true things and then like make enough money to support themselves and live in a nice apartment and a flat, and they don't have to beg on fucking Patreon and GoFundMe every 5 minutes to work at, you know, a socialist country's media channel. In the West, unless you're telling lies, right, working for CNN, MSNBC, Fox, unless you're telling non-stop lies and not doing journalism, you're doing war propaganda, you're doing capitalism propaganda, you're like airbrushing working war criminals like Joe Biden. Unless you're telling non-stop, that's not journalism. What is that? What is that? You're a professional war criminal propagandist. That's what you are. You are a lie spewer. Right? Unless you are spewing lies, making up lies at a think tank in DC, making up lies at a think tank in Australia at ASPI, taking pictures of satellite footage of a fucking school, and then drawing pictures of a guard tower, putting like a evil mustache on some fucking Chinese guard, saying, look at that! Taking a picture of an Iraqi woman that's being paid to say they're throwing babies out of incubators, photoshopping babies being thrown out of incubators, but changing the eyes to be more slitty, like a racist American would or racist Australian would, and then throwing Asian babies out of incubators, you know, and going, oh my God, we gotta invade China because they're throwing Uyghur babies out of incubators, just like they did in Iraq before we were lied into that war in the 90s. That's what you pay to do in the West. And I'm talking about Germany too. German journalists have blown the cover on that, saying like, oh my God, I went to Iraq, I went to Afghanistan, I went to these places, and we basically set cars on fire, had fake bullet sounds, Hollywood people like audio editing bullet sounds, editing in like more fire in the background. Like literally Hollywood's job is to manufacture war. That's what their job is. All the sets, all the gunshots, all the decals, all the stunts is about. A lot of it goes to make fake news reports for Germans to report to German citizens about a horrible military attack instigated by, you know, Saddam, or instigated by whatever dictator, authoritarian regime they want to undo. Across the world, the entire West, they're involved in this lies. They're all involved in this. And so you only get paid to be a bullshit artist in the West. But you can work in a, you can work at Telesur, you can work at a socialist country or Vietnam. You can work at the Vietnamese news agency and like say true things, do actual reporting on a corrupt, like the Vietnamese government will pay you. There was a corruption, like there was electrical, just as a perfect example, there was an electrical company like that was run by somebody who was getting too greedy in the beginning of the COVID pandemic. When there was the big calamity, the electrical company in Vietnam, tried to increase the price of electricity, right? Just by like 1.5x or 2 times, I don't know what it was, but they're price gouging electricity. And then there were Vietnamese investigators, actually, like journalism, a thing that doesn't exist in the West, investigated or regulators found that this electrical, Luna Oi talked about it on one of her videos, they found that this electrical company in Vietnam was illegally jacking up and increasing the prices of electricity, not to $16,751 for 1 month, like a Texas veteran paid in the middle of the horrific, dropping slipstream, Arctic jet stream fucking day after tomorrow scenario. No, they just jacked it up to like $300 a month or $400, right? That company was reported on by journalists paid living wages. The regulators were doing their job and weren't fired for doing their job, unlike the woman, the scientist in Florida who did her job and created a system to regulate and discover where the actual COVID cases were and was fired for doing her job, right? If you actually regulate in America, you will be fired. Your job is to take a kickback, shut the fuck up, and pretend like there's a regulatory system. That's your job. Like Standard & Poor's in the subprime mortgage. Like the fucking electrical regulators in California watching this fucking entire place burn. Like all the regulators in Texas that are all bought off in the middle of this electrical, all the board members who are like fucking family members of Wall Street executives who own the entire electrical grid of the fucking United States. In Vietnam, regulators went in and said, you can't do that. And then the next step, what's the next step? Oh, that's right. And then the police and the legal system comes in and they deny your business contract. They shut down your entire company. In the United States, the U.S. government, if you steal billions of dollars from the people, like through Goldman Sachs in the toxic subprime metal, they give you a fucking Nobel Peace Prize. They give you billions of dollars of bailout. That's what they give you. If you steal $16,751 from fucking Texans, from millions of Texans, you know what they do? They do absolutely nothing. They fucking promote you. They give you a fucking private equity a partnership in New York to help make Warren Buffett, Elon Musk, Bezos make more billions because you did such a good job ripping off the people. That's what they give you. In Vietnam, you lose your job and now you live in shame and you possibly go to prison. In China, you go to fucking prison. Like, you get your head chopped off. Like 15 billionaires have. There's been 0 beheaded billionaires. America, you're 15 behind on beheading your billionaires. I mean, executing them. You're way behind. America will never catch up because America only kills its fucking Asians and black people in its sex parlors. That's all America can do. And then the brown people abroad. That's all they can do. But yeah, in Vietnam, the person who tried to price gouge even 1.5, 2 times the normal price of electricity in the beginning of the pandemic was shut down. They were prevented. So you have actual functioning journalism, you have actual functioning rule of law, you have actual functioning regulatory systems, you have actual functioning government, you have actual functioning law enforcement, you have actual functioning courts. They're not perfect, right? They do have corruption, but then the corruption gets taken care of, right, as fast as they can, right? Not always perfect. It might take them too long, but they actually enforce laws. In America, there's no laws. America, the rich just go, hey, Jeff Bezos is like, hey, I want a new law. It's called, I want to own all of this entire fucking city. It's like, I don't like the head tax. I don't want to pay hundreds of millions of dollars. It's like 0.01% of what I'm making a year. I don't want to pay that to support all the homeless people all over Seattle. Fuck that, and I'm going to rewrite the law by bribing all of my governors, congressmen, senators, judges, and representatives, whoever else I need to buy. Who do I got to fucking buy? The only question is, who do I need to buy and how much? In the United States. There's no law. It's a joke. There's no rule of law. If there is any law, again, as Richard Medhurst said very appropriately, if the United States had rule of fucking law in a Nuremberg-style tribunal for crimes against humanity, Joe Biden would have been hanged for his role in Iraq, just like the Allies went after not only senior Nazi leadership, but mayors, judges, guards. Instead, people came and told you to vote for Twitter, and this guy is being sponsored by everyone from fucking left and right. I mean, Obama, Democrats, and Republicans all going, let's all go for Biden. The billionaire all go for Biden. Fucking fake leftists like Vosh. Oh, everybody ride for Biden. Karl Marx would vote for Biden. Fucking everybody's all, let's all fucking vote for Biden. The only people saying fuck Biden are like non-Americans. Like indigenous people, black people, and brown people, colonized people, and their supporters who never think of them, who have never really been considered Americans by America. But all of America, which is all the white people, which is all the capitalist people, which is all the racist people, which is all the people aspiring to become temporary embarrassed millionaires and to become Musk, Bezos, or Kanye's, they are all riding for fucking Biden or Trump. There's no law, there's no democracy, there's no anything. There's nothing. There's a dying fucking landfill crossed with a slum wearing a fucking Gucci belt. It's called New York and San Francisco. Would be claiming to be an anarchist. Yeah, you know, so you know, it's like it's very unfortunate, you know, it's very unfortunate, but you know, but that is the way that it is, and you know, this is the way that it has to go. One day, like I often bring up, there will be a partially automated indigenous anarcho-socialist. That's what the West would call it. The indigenous people would just call it a Sioux society. It would just call it a Lakota society. We'll just call it a Native Hawaiian society run by Kuleana Pono and Aloha Aina, like words that don't exist in the West, because English is a broken imperial fucked up language to the core. You can't say the word property without denoting servants and masters. You can't talk about gender without creating binaries that were made for oppression, to create personal serfs for every man. You can't talk about anything in English really without having some already half broken language, because language is constructed through the uses of the words, and the uses of the words have all been uses of a deeply, for thousands of years, barbaric, imperial, sexist, hierarchical, broken-ass servant construction system, which is what feudalism, slavery, and capitalism all have in common, and patriarchy and racism. You know, all these things. They're about servant construction. It's about exploitation. It's about gaslighting. It's about evil. Each word in English has its own baggage on it attached to it. You know, even the word meritocracy that they sometimes use to describe the Chinese system, they say that's actually inaccurate, because the word meritocracy, it denotes people with great merit, right? Which has its own Darwinian, social Darwinian, eugenicist, colonialist baggage, right? The word meritocracy suggests if you score a 1500 on your SAT, if you are very good at science, then you are rewarded with wealth, with power, with money, with a house, with education, with healthcare, right? With a living. No, that's not what it means. It's actually the wrong message. It's not a meritocracy in that sense. It's a political meritocracy in the sense that the people who are capable of doing a socialism, the people who are capable of bettering the society, it's rewarding those with the most actual virtue, not necessarily the ones who are skilled, because there's a way that it can be construed for techno-utopian, singularitarian fucking ghouls like Elon Musk and all of his friends. And Ray Kurzweilian, I want to live forever with all of my, 700 pills I take every day, my blood transfusions from 16-year-old virgins like fucking Peter Thiel. I'm not joking. The guy is like a literal cyberpunk dystopia vampire. Takes blood transfusions from children. It's like a bad, twisted, venture capitalist fucking crypto bro version of a Maze Runner plot. But he literally takes it because he thinks that it will elongate his lifespan. Takes blood transfusion from children. Or he has. And he said, yeah, it's really great. I feel rejuvenated. When I exsanguinate 16-year-olds, disproportionately impoverished, disproportionately non-white, disproportionately probably Asian, because, you know, that's our serving class. They cook all of our fucking noodles for all of our broody white guy protagonists wearing fucking trench coats with neon characteristics. It's called cyberpunk. Oh, yeah, it's full of anti-Asian racism. Always has been. Bang. Anyways, we got revealed out about cyberpunk, because otherwise we'll cancel every fucking franchise. But anyways, Peter Thiel, yeah, he takes fucking blood transfusions. And so this is you know, the capacity for these countries and these places to improve themselves is just like it doesn't exist, you know. And meritocracy that they talk about, even the word meritocracy has this connotation. That's not a word that really can be applied to what the Chinese system is, which is also should be reiterated. The Chinese systems of government, they're not discovered. They integrated much. Sorry, but they integrated much of Marxist-Leninist thought and a lot of what what Marx wrote, and the history of the socialist ideological and political thought is integrated into the Chinese system. But the Chinese meritocracy goes back. The Chinese political meritocracy, that's the closest you can get in the broken language that is English. The Chinese political meritocracy goes back 1,300 to 2,000 years. Equalization between men and women. The revolution was important for that because there was inequality between the sexes. Every woman actually got land, and every man, because they understood that the exploitation between genders was a problem. This is another thing America can never deal with. That's why America will forever make America great again, put the women back in the kitchen. All your right-wing family members that are listening to Jordan Peterson going, women were happier when they were massaging my feet, sucking me off, in the kitchen, cooking and cleaning, not having jobs. Neurodivergence and fake evil psych Sam Harrisonian women's brains are not designed to do science, technology, engineering, or math, and they are unhappy because they're in high-value, high-level productive science and engineering jobs. This is all part of a deep servitude and serfification through gender characteristics, right? And at China, they recognize that this was still a thing that needed to happen, and that's why Vietnam also, every woman, Luna has herself a 1/4 acre of land to not be required again, right? Women were property in America and in the West, and they still are to this day, informally. Definitely they want to make it formally through MAGA, through Trump, through QAnon, through Ben Shapiro, through all these other fucking clowns in the right. They want a formal Staffordian America again. But women are always property. But under and so the woman comes with the house, like the slaves. The woman is just another asset. You know, it's a product. That's why in Neofeud, all the characters that are not white male or white wealthy humans are considered assets, products, property. Like even Princess Sybil, like she slips and she refers in Neofeud to Protege, to Carl Carbon, the sentient machine humanoids, the transgenic eugenics corp discarded Franken people tossed out of their floating palatial corporations into landfills. She refers accidentally to the people that she's trying to help as assets sometimes. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to use that slur against you or that term. You're my friends, you're my comrades, but that's what everybody refers to anyone that isn't a white privileged elite human. And in a more patriarchal MAGA red version, it's everyone who is in a white straight cis man. In a Democrat capitalist, it's everyone who is in a wealthy white or in solidarity with whiteness and capital, like Kamala Harris could still be considered a human, but only if she dedicates her entire life to mass incarcerating people who look like her. But everyone who isn't that, under the Democrats, are subhuman. Everyone who isn't a straight cis white man is subhuman under the right wing, of the United States. And so, ultimately, the equalization was important in Mao's revolution. But economic equality in China, coming back to that, has deep roots in 1,000-year-old systems that worked well with Marxist-Leninist ideas, and they read and they studied all of the West's ideas. And these are interesting and these are useful in our against a capitalist structure. It's important. Marx is a critique and discussion of a capitalist system. That is what? That is a Western system. They didn't necessarily have that in a lot of the rest of the world, right? So the Marxism is really develops in response to capitalist economics and gaslighting, right? But if you don't have capitalism, you don't really have Marx, right? In that sense, Marxism, right? And so the Chinese like had a system to equalize, which was never perfect, but they did live more in balance. They had like literally tens of thousands of times less total warfare and deaths through that. When you analyze the time periods and the locations and the amount of war that happened, barbarism, all these sorts of things, much less internally. Like they built walls to stop invading peoples, the Huns obviously, but you know they had been doing fairly well. You know, the indigenous peoples of Hawaii lived to 80, 100 years before the advent of the Western colonizers. Without the technology, Hawaiians had their own advanced technologies, ecological methods of production, the Ahupua'a system, the Lo'i system, the system from the mountain to the sea with equal division, societal technologies, right? The fact that literally, like, there was the luau system, which was a system of food. I talk about it a lot, so I'm not going to reiterate the whole thing, but basically, it's actually existing communism through from each according to their ability, to each according to their need, food, preparation, providing, and harvesting structures to reinforce actual socialism, actual anarchism values within the society. And so they were doing fine. Indigenous people doing fine. Like one actual war every 1,000 years, maybe. As opposed to Europe. 50 wars every year. All day. All the time. And then inequality, death, impoverishment, disease, black death, fucking flea bottom, pustule-ridden servants being shat on and spat on all day long, being used as prostitutes, as target practice by crossbow wielding sociopathic fucking child kings, you name it, right? Henry VIII. Game of Thrones is, as George R.R. Martin has said, what I wrote about in Game of Thrones and what I described, which is a hellish sort of existence for the powerful, let alone the poor, is not even close to as bad as it was in the actual history. That's very different from indigenous societies, very different from Chinese societies, very different from all African societies. Despite what the lies that are perpetuated, just as you only get paid to lie in any Western country, you will only get paid to lie in history books as a Western historian, as a Western history teacher, social studies teacher, public school teacher, private school teacher, non-profit charter school under Bill Gates. I'm going to save the education system, except not really. I'm going to actually have twice as bad SATs and actual student educational results. Wherever you work in America, education system, you're not paid to teach actual education. You're not paid to give people information. You're paid to give them disinformation, lies about history, lies about Thomas Jefferson being the great savior and Superman who brought about peace, prosperity, and democracy for the entire world, as opposed to a 260 slave-owning 14-year-old black child rapist who called them animals at the same time, who plagiarized actual indigenous societies, documents like the Iroquois, like the Six Nations, and then didn't follow them by being a fucking homicidal war criminal and wealth extractor, slave owner, and servant owner, like everyone else who's ever led anything in America. Every dollar bill, 5, 10, 20, just covered. In Neofeud 2, dollars are retro dead tree dollars, because most of the money is Amagoogle Zuckbergian Zuck Bezelstein crypto like trillionaire controlled cryptocurrencies. You don't use dollars anymore, but you don't use good electronic currency. You're using like fucking Elon Musk NFTs of his fucking Teslas and his broken Cybertrucks. That's what you're using now. But all the retro dollars with they're literally called dead white war criminals, because that's what are on all the dollars. Dead white war criminals, like Andrew Jackson, like Abraham Lincoln, like Thomas Jefferson, like George Washington, who literally had his slave's teeth in his head. So that you're only paid to do history. You're only paid to do lies. You lie about the past. That's what America doesn't have history teachers or educators. It has It has the Department of Truth Revisionism. It has the Department of Lying About the Past and Brain Poisoners. You can be paid to be a historical brain poisoner. You can pay to be a current events brain poisoner. It's called a journalist, or I'm sorry, it's called blue checkmark and Fox and CNN. There's not enough journalists in America. You can be paid to do those things, but you can't do history. If you want to do history, go have fun, enjoy doing a GoFundMe to raise $2,000 to pay this month's New York City exorbitant rent for the shoebox next to the meth lab above a fucking highway that's falling apart with asbestos in it. As a history, you want to teach history? Good luck. GoFundMe your insulin the rest of your life. You want to teach actual economics? If you're not a fucking tenured professor because you have Ivy League, fucking Harvard, Yale, and Princeton curriculum vitae like Richard Wolff, if you're not a fucking he's the only one basically for definitely much of the 20th century. If you don't have a fucking every credential from the most prestigious Emperor Palpatine training facilities, universities in the United States, you can look forward to fucking GoFundMe your insulin for the rest of your life, because you will never get tenure. Nowadays you're never gonna get tenure. Period. You're gonna sit around and make $7.50 an hour, rationing out cans of tuna fish in your fucking broken Toyota Corolla, drinking poison water. That's what you want to teach anything in America. There are no college educations. There are only There are only hedge funds masquerading as places of learning, staffed by $7 an hour fucking gig serfs. That's all. That's all you can look for. That's another reason. That's just reason number 78 why America is permanently broken. It can't educate its own fucking populace. It's literally cannibalizing its own children's brains. I mean, it already does that. Everyone's brain in America is cannibalized for the last 200 years because they're taught lies like capitalism and all this fake history. But then even their limited skill set, there's some things that America knew that, okay, we have to diseducate them in history. We have to diseducate them on economics and just completely gaslight them and lie to them about the entire history of the human race's economic discourse. That's all socialism and communism. We have to completely make them just brain dead on that. But we have to teach them how to repair Boeing 767 turbines. We have to teach them how to do advanced adversarial network AI to manage the autopilot system on the 737 AAS. We have to teach them how to do the electrical engineering on these grids, on transformers. We have to teach them how to do 4G network. They don't have 5G because America's going to die before, and it does pretend fake 5G that only lasts for 30 seconds in New York City. It's bullshit. America will never have 5G because America doesn't build anything. Not planes, not cars, not fucking towers that can do future world-leading, bleeding-edge fucking tech that enables a new quantum leap in potential industries and products, including remote telesurgery, etc. America's never going to have that. It's just going to die in a fucking fire. But even to get the 4G networks built, you need to teach some amount of actual computer programming. You need you need actual engineering. You need aeronautics 307. You need all these classes in your university. You need these classes. You need these skill sets to be perpetuated to keep the planes flying, keep the engines running, there's no trains because America's never going to make a fucking train. It takes fucking 25 years, 2x over the projected window, 300% over budget to make a fucking broken 10 miles of rail when fucking China makes 50,000 miles or 50,000 kilometers in half the time, 70% budget. But even to keep what your rotting, collapsing rail, your screeching BART in San Francisco from not grinding off into a cloud of rust and dead San Franciscan starving nurses exploding in your fucking in your mass transit system, right? Even to keep the fucking mass transit going, to keep the highways from falling apart, you need a certain amount of actual education when it comes to science, technology, and engineering. Not in history, not in economics, not in sociology, not in anthropology, not in anything about cultural values or anything. No. Not about the history of racism and the action dealing with it. But we have to get science, technology, engineering, maybe some math. That's all we need. That's all you're gonna get. That's the other education. You can get some of that. You can learn how to fix a fucking engineering panel, but you can't learn enough how to not be a homeless Boeing 767 repairman because you're making $100,000 a year, but you're fucking still living in a fucking tent city, living in a van in a Walmart parking lot, taking a piss in the Walmart bathroom, taking a shower in a public park, because you don't have access to basic facilities, and you can't figure out. This is like a person I often refer to as a actual Hawaiian Airlines and United Airlines flight ex engineer and ex-military as well, and also a white guy who lives homeless. But you don't know enough to understand the economic system that has made you homeless. You know just enough to fix the airplane for the Boeing Corporation, for the United Airlines Corporation, but not enough to fix your shitty circumstance. But even the repairing of planes, the repairing of trains, the repairing of the electrical grid, the maintenance of all of the systems that are needed, the medical systems, even that is falling through the cracks. Nobody's getting an education, not that nobody's getting an education, but it's just like it's becoming so difficult to teach, and they don't want to teach anything. It's much more profitable to just push everybody through the college system. I mean, not to say the students are bad, but there's no incentive to provide an education. It's like, well, if we move these kids through, and like, if they turn in like a YouTube video or a comment, just like a half-ass essay, they don't really know the math. It doesn't matter if they learn the math or not. You got to push them through, because we don't care. What we care about as the college administrator, as the Wall Street bank that has collateralized no future student obligations on the dead future of America because it has no college graduates that know what they're doing, or not enough of them. They don't care if somebody learns how to engineer aircrafts or learns the calculus, or the calculus is not needed for a lot of jobs. They don't care if they learn the C# programming or not. All they care about is they got the $50,000 worth of college student debt in their pocket, so that they could take out they could leverage it 60 times, and I don't know, fucking buy $1 trillion worth of fucking non-fungible Tolkien coins. Of pictures of J.R.R. Tolkien and all of his children's fucking writings that they're selling online. I don't know. They don't buy another $50 trillion worth of dead commercial real estate in New York City. I don't know. Try to leverage it up to get into China, but I really hope that that's not what happens. That's one very dark scenario. Is the Western Empire imperial core hightails it into Taiwan and Shanghai, and they make that their base to colonize. That's a very negative scenario, but I don't see that as a high probability, but it is a terrible scenario. They take all of the wealth from every American, and everyone in all 300 million of them just suffer and die in their shithole country, rotting to death, fighting over cans of pork and beans with a fucking shank. And then they hightail it to Shanghai and Taiwan, and they try to like repeat America and China. That's a terrible scenario. But they're not gonna teach children. They're not gonna educate. Not to say that college graduates in America, their education isn't worth what they paid for necessarily. You can learn a lot of things even if they're not teaching you a lot of things, right? But the point is, like, if a college student doesn't want to do work, the college professor is not incentivized to make sure that they get the education. Like, Holly and I, we both know college professors. They're not incentivized to make sure that the children are learning. If the children don't want to do X and Y and Z, the college itself is the professor and the college. The professor's like, college is like, if you can't get 50 students in or 30 students in, you don't have a job. You're all adjunct. As soon as the students drop below this number, you're not making that. I mean, what are the college professors making? What? Fucking $1,400, $1,500 a month? You're making poverty wages? But I mean, even that, it's like, well, at least you have a job, college professor, millennial college professor, living in your fucking car. We literally housed one here at the Silver Spoon Cooperative in Silver Spoon Commune, because it was a college professor who was teaching at an accredited like University of Michigan level university full time, begging from their students for a meal card so they could get some stale lasagna from the university cafeteria. Literally, basically homeless, living in cars, living in vehicles. And and so the professors, they're already stressed and stretched to the limit. The college's the administrators and the executives behind them, and the banking system behind them. The administrators are like, I don't give a shit if anybody learned anything. All I care about is that fucking 30 times $50,000 worth of college tuition came through my coffers, so that I can get paid my $500,000 fat college salary, like Janet Napolitano, the head of the entire University of California system, an ex-Democrat Obama Homeland Security officer doing fucking war crimes, who runs the California college. No wonder she was executing war crimes against all of the college professors when they want to strike at Santa Cruz, UC San Diego, UC Berkeley, when they went on strike for their starvation wages, and Gianna Napolitano sent all of America's slave-catching, slave murderers, cops, sent all of the SWAT cops down to break all of the hands and the wrists of those kids. They literally brutalized college professors for asking for living wages in the Wildcat strike last year. I'm guessing that didn't work out very well for the college professors, although it was a valiant effort for sure. And they should continue to do bigger and bigger strikes before there's nothing to strike. Because AI run everything, and then you're just a bunch of fucking dead bodies that used to be college teaching brains and, chalkboard writing hands. Now you're just dead because you don't need you anymore. Anyways, so the college professors, in the colleges, they don't have a fucking incentive. The administrators that were making the six-figure salaries, they don't have an incentive to make sure anybody learns anything. They don't give a shit. What do they care? Like the subprime mortgage, they don't care if everyone is going to lose their house and the economy is going to explode. Goldman Sachs, high-frequency trading algorithm programmers, and Goldman Sachs accounting officers, Goldman Sachs, Goldman Sachs executives and traders, they're sitting over there. They're looking at, a million mortgages. I don't care if this million mortgages that we're going to put into what Moody's is going to stamp as a AAA, very high, very likely to be paid back, extremely solid, gold-plated, platinum-plated package of 1 million loans. They don't care if the loans in that are toxic waste. That's like $7.50 waitresses with $1 million houses that they can never afford in their fucking wildest dreams to pay back. Goldman Sachs don't give a shit. All they give a shit is there's product moving through our doors. There's a product coming out is toxic heaps of fucking garbage, but we gotta keep moving product so we can pay our fucking 20, 50, 70, $100 million bonuses. Keep moving that fucking rotten subprime mortgage product. Hey, collateralized fracking obligations. Let's take 12 times as much of the cost. Let's make negative 12x return fracking that fucking spews toxic chemicals into the environment, and it literally doesn't even make money because the oil comes out fucking thin as fucking watered down 7-Eleven wine. Fucking shitty ass American 7-Eleven sushi. Hawaii 7-Eleven sushi is good. The fracking oil is all just destroying our entire capacity to sustain life. All of our water is being toxified by the 10,000 chemicals we're hydraulically fracturing and shoving into the ground, poisoning everyone. But hey, just make more toxic collateralized fracking obligations. We got to keep moving that through Goldman Sachs. Hey, $50 million. I don't care if this whole country breaks and explodes in 10 years. Who gives a fuck? Oh, collateralized dead Texan obligations after all of them freeze and burn. Yeah, no, just keep moving all that electrical hedge fund decompartmentalized risk. We just keep on just keep on doubling down on that. PG&E, JP Morgan famously owns huge amounts of the electrical infrastructure of Texas, California, New Jersey, Florida, you fucking name it. We're gonna keep moving collateralized, no electricity, burning wildfire California obligations through this fucking system. All right, let's take all the commercial real estate. All right, let's charge people $10,000 for a fucking shoebox in New York. Hey, let's take a flat that used to cost a reasonable $800 in San Francisco. Let's put it up to fucking $6,000. All right, everybody. It's not worth that because nobody can fucking live there. Everybody's shooting up. Everybody's dead on the street. The water comes out fucking burning plastic in Honolulu. Hey, we're not gonna be around when it blows up. We're gonna be in fucking Shanghai. We're gonna be in fucking Sweden. We're gonna be in fucking Zurich. We're gonna be going to a fucking Davos, party of the people who ruined the world, hanging out with Tony Blair and George W. Bush and the Clintons, chilling out, talking about all the people that we killed in the Middle East, and we killed them at home. And we're gonna be, we had a great time laundering all the money for all your F-35s and dealing with all of your economic transactions. I don't know, sanctioning Cuba and Venezuela. Oh, we had a great time murdering the world. We're not gonna be there when all the commercial real estate of the entire United States explodes and the whole place is a giant rotten heap of literal landfill with no functioning water supplies, with falling apart buildings, with no actual jobs, with no factories, with no productive capacity, with no electrical grid, with no fucking nothing. Just a bunch of rotten fucking people in their fucking Toyota Corollas trying to rub their fucking last two stimulus checks together to make a fucking fire to keep themselves warm, piling up all of their Marx and Kropotkin books that are and all of their Anthropology 206 textbooks that they used to teach. Just piling them up as the fucking day after tomorrow fucking super cooled air comes out of the troposphere and blasts all of America, and every single last inch has exploding pipes and exploding infrastructure like Texas. Every inch from California to fucking Maine, frozen to Florida to fucking New Mexico, frozen, dead, gone in the song of Texas ice and California wildfire. They're gonna be gone. They're already gone. They've left you. They're gone. Biden will never suffer what you suffer. Janet Napolitano will never suffer what you suffer. Ted Cruz will never suffer what Americans have suffered. The CEOs of all the banks I've just talked about will never suffer this. Maria Bartiromo on fucking CNBC and now on Fox, because everybody's piling into Fox. It's like John Malkovich, CNN, MSNBC, like shit, CNN, CNBC. Nobody's watching us anymore. Let's all pile into fucking right-wing, make America great again, quadrupling down on their American racialized capitalism through Fox News. But they will never suffer. The Fox News anchors and the CNN anchors and the MSC. Rachel Maddow and Fox News anchors, they actually, like, a lot of them like each other. You know, it's a kind of a joke. The CNBC, the MSNBC, the left, the liberal and the conservative media executives, they all hang out and they go to the same parties. They're like laughing to the bank, you know, with Trump. They're like, yeah, we're gonna make money. The only thing that matters is he's getting eyeballs. Oh, we make money with Biden. We make money with Trump. We'll make money telling you all this fake shit about Russia. We'll make money telling you fake shit about China, Russia Gate, Trump Gate, fucking all this shit. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. All these idiot Americans eat this shit up. They're all laughing to the bank. They will never suffer. They have $50 million in their Swiss bank accounts, in their Cayman bank accounts, stored up. They will be gone. You will die. You will suffer. Your children will suffer. You will rot. The neo-feudal elite can never, they will never pay a price. There will never be justice. Not under America. There will never be justice in America for George Floyd. There will never be justice for Breonna Taylor. There will never be justice for all the people that have suffered this entire wealth extraction of every color. There will be no justice for these people. They will live in paradise, in their paradises for the foreseeable eternity, as long as there's a West. There will always be a haven for them somewhere in Brussels, in 200-story British City of London penthouse suite with fucking Kanye and Taylor Swift playing every night, because that's what you can. When you have billions of dollars, you can afford to have the biggest celebrities ever play for you in your personal party every night. I'm not joking about that. There was a person who defrauded Goldman Sachs, and he tried to spend down all the money by having Snoop Dogg, Taylor Swift, and like J-Lo play on an aircraft carrier somewhere in the South China Sea. He like stole a bunch of money, and the problem was he couldn't spend the money fast enough. He defrauded of like billions of dollars. He was an ex-Goldman Sachs banker, and he tried to spend it all down by having like multi-million-dollar per show celebrities personally play his private parties. Great alliteration. I find your lack of alliteration disturbing. No. Personal penthouse private parties played by popular pop cultural icons. I was gonna say pycons. That doesn't make sense. You must construct the digital pycons. But anyways, that's how, if you want to spend money down, when you take $1 trillion, you take $500 billion, you take $10 billion of $500 billion of wealth stolen from the defrauded American population and their all the homeowners. You want to spend down a bunch of that stolen money. You gotta get the entire. You gotta have like Snoop Dogg. You gotta get J-Lo. You gotta get Mariah Carey. You gotta get what? Resurrect Michael Jackson with transhuman Elon Musk and Peter Thiel resurrection technology. Cryogenically unfreeze 200 Michael Jackson clones and pay each one of them $5 million per night. Maybe you spend down the $10 billion fast enough so that Goldman Sachs executives don't reach their tentacles across the Mario Draghi EU fucking planetary colonial machine and latch it around your neck and yank you all the way back into a deep dark cell next to Julian Assange. If you're lucky, you gotta spend it much faster though. Next time, make sure get Kanye the 17th, unfrozen, make him play. Get all of the neo-feudal dynastic elite to unfreeze the mega celebrities and play for your Thailand penthouse party with and then pay Hillary Clinton $500,000 to give an hour speech. She loves giving speeches to rich bankers, right? Get Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, George W. Bush, Fox News anchors and CNN anchors all to come down and give keynote speeches, like each one 5 minutes each, right? Pay each one $500,000 because that's how they make their money. They come to rich fucking bankers and then they take fucking $500,000 for 5 minutes of work fucking payouts. Each one of those people have Larry Summers come down and do his the Dark Prince of neoliberalism, right? Have that guy show up and give $1 million speech next to. Have Snoop Dogg being like, have like, Mariah Carey go and be like, and I will always. Okay, that's Whitney Houston. But anyway, have Mariah Carey cover Whitney Houston. They get into a big lawsuit. That costs even more money. There you go. You're racking up the bill now. Now you're going. Now you're cooking. And after while Mariah Carey is covering that surrounded by a fleet of flying Teslas that cost another $1 billion. Then you have Larry Summers come out and give a keynote speech talking about the fucking great prosperity and the great moderation and the great society that we have built with our neoliberal capitalist structure, and you pay him $1 million, and then you do that enough nights in a row, like maybe 300 nights in a row, you finally spend down your $10 billion. You finally spending that down. Buy like a 2 more, half a mile long yachts with 6 helicopter pads, 5 racquetball courts, and 25 IMAX theaters, and a fucking 0G fucking lab made with its own internal fucking fusion machine. Oh, I'm sorry, we don't do fusion because you're a Westerner. You don't want to. Increase energy. Well, you can have like a fossil fuel propelled fucking 0G machine where you can pretend to be Lawnmower Man inside of your half a mile long fucking aircraft carrier that's been converted retroactively into a fucking yacht. Then you might be able to spend down your stolen fucking neo-feudal quantitative easing infinity central bank money printing fucking ill-gotten gains fast enough to not get caught by the tentacles of Goldman. But you gotta spend that money a lot faster. You're just spending it too slow. You gotta make it rain. When I get that rich, if evil Silver Spook ever clones myself and then makes an evil one of him, and then in the alternate metaverse WandaVision version where I'm actually working at Goldman Sachs in some really bad 80s sitcom. I'm like the 80s dad that's working at Goldman Sachs. I'm like Friends, like the evil fourth member of the Friends apartment that's not an actor or a waitress or some fucking hippie chick. I'm like the Goldman Sachs banker in New York City because that's what most of them clowns are. They're not just chill little friends. They're fucking Goldman Sachs bankers and corporate war criminals. If the Silver Spook ever gets cloned and I get turned into one of those things, I'm gonna need a cyber hand. I'm gonna need I don't need a retractable 50 caliber Gatling railgun that ejects from my finger. I don't need a adamantium mantis arm that I can slice off Rent-A-Cop's faces with. I don't need that. You know what I need though? I need like a 1,000 finger making it rain hand. It needs to be able to flap its hand really fast. I have to be able to shoot out dead white war criminal. I'm sorry, $100 bills covered in cocaine and dead Iraqi blood money. I gotta be able to shoot that dollar out I gotta shoot $1 million $100 bills a second so that I can spend all of my money fast enough when I steal it all from some giant mega bank to not get caught like that Goldman Sachs banker who got caught ripping off his parent company. So I gotta be able to make it rain really fast. Just going to all these fucking clubs. It's quick, take all my money before I get caught. Because that's what the problem is. When you have that much money and you have it in the bank account anywhere, they can track it. They got the Swiss international payment system. That's the number one method of financial mass destruction and financial mass terrorism, is controlling half of the planet's transactions for all of its oil, soybeans, copper, and everything else. So you got to spend it so fast so that they can't track you. And once you've spent it all, then you might be clear. But until then, you got to watch out. You might get Epstein. Anyways. Anyway, so that's kind of a silly aside, but I will never allow anyone to clone Silver Spook. all those celebrities are overrated. Yeah. Anyways, it's not one. Okay, we're gonna get off because I'm gonna get back on later on, so we're not gonna stream all day long. We're gonna get off because that was. But that is a thing that has happened. There was somebody who defrauded mega bank for I think it was billions of dollars. It was a few years ago, and then they were literally going around the world having huge parties every night, having huge mega celebrities play, going to fancy parties, buying cars and buying aircraft, trying to spend the money down that they had stolen. But the problem was they got caught after a year or less than a year because they hadn't spent it fast enough. and they literally tracked like the money, right? But if you had spent it down, it would have been laundered, but they didn't launder it fast enough. So that part is like some of that is I'm being silly, but a lot of it, but the truth is that is what has happened, and that is you know, in a certain sense, that's what the West and the United States is trying to do right now, is trying to spend down as much as it can, right, in trying to getting it out of dollars before the entire fiat currency of the United States dollar explodes. That's kind of what they're all trying to do right now. They're trying to get your land, they're trying to get your house, they're trying to get all the material. That's what Warren Buffett did. That, like, he bought huge swaths of tractor equipment, tractor companies, farming equipment, farms, railroads, physical infrastructure. The problem was a lot of American physical infrastructure was falling apart and rotting, right? See, Warren Buffett was, you know, and Warren Buffett also has huge swaths of American housing market as well. He's got lots of physical property. One of the biggest landlords. So does, you know, so do the mega banks. So do, you know, I don't know what's, I don't have everybody's fucking portfolio on my fucking hand, but I mean, these people have huge amounts of that kind of stuff. Because they know that the dollar, you know, they do have dollars, but they know that its time is limited. For now, it's still strong, but I mean, this is written in the cards. Anyways, okay. What time is it now? It is now 1 o'clock. Neofeud is a dystopian cyberpunk adventure game in the vein of Blade Runner, in the overlay of Game of Thrones like political intrigue and 1366 by 768 hand-painted stylized visuals. It is a game that is not on sale on Steam right now, but it is a game that I've created over the course of a few years. I did the art, music, writing, and programming for it. It is similar to Disco Elysium, but with more cyberpunk in it, I would say. It is a game that, if you have a second to review it, like, you know, if you enjoyed playing it and you like if you want to support us, it really does help if you leave even a very short review, like 10 hacked e-cigarettes out of 10. You know, that's like, it does help because it more cyber and more punk than a certain recent release. I think they're talking about Cyberpunk 2077, so that's pretty cool. Anyways, if you have a second to leave even a very short review, it does help because it increases the likelihood that the algorithm on Steam will share the game with other folks. It decreases the likelihood that we will be able to, get the game seen, which increases the likelihood that it gets sold. Because I don't have any money for any marketing or anything like that, because you don't get, like I said, you don't get paid to do journalism. You don't get paid to tell the truth. You don't get paid to do essential healthcare, housing, teaching, or food providing services. And you don't get paid to make video games that actually critique and are relevant to the society in which you live. You don't get art you don't get paid to do that anyway. So you can help us out with mutual aid if you leave even a very short review. But I want to say this again. Neofeud explored the depths that make our capitalist up our capitalist reality, and I found the game to be a multidimensional representation of Marx's Das Kapital. It is received as a labor of love, one that speaks to the cultural references of our generation. Anyways, so that's one of the highest compliments I've got. So you don't need to read Marx, just play Neofeud apparently. No, I mean, like, you should explore these ideas, but I thought that is something that I did want to. It is a critique of the economics, society, and politics, and on one level, but it's also just entertainment as well. If it's not funny and it's not entertaining, then it's not. I didn't do my job. That's always my first job, you know. But then also it is also a critique of all those things on a deeper level. You can also get Neofeud on itch.io for Windows, Mac, and Linux. You can get it on sale. You can get it without digital rights management if you don't like Steam for whatever reason. You can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/Neofeud. As a Patreon, if you become a Patreon patron, you get access to the Silver Spook Discord. You also get access to behind the scenes news on Neofeud 2 that I don't always share, or I don't share it till later with the rest of the world. So do think about subscribing to this and helping us out there. You can also follow at Octodon, at Silver Spook Games, at octodon.social. Mastodon is a decentralized non-capitalist controlled social media platform that is made doesn't have billionaires running it for giant corporations with the Wall Street and military industrial complex backing them, which is a thing that Twitter does. And so I recommend getting a Mastodon, especially if you do any kind of activism, because you are in danger. You will be in more danger in the future as things fall apart more. So you will really need non-capitalist, non-imperial methods of mass communication, as well as methods of providing basic needs and such, and organizing the workers and organizing the people. Anyways, while we have Twitter, though, it has a bigger reach. I hope that one day Mastodon has a bigger reach than Twitter, but it doesn't right now. You can follow @SilverSpookGuy, @SilverSpookGuy. That's my personal Twitter. You can also follow @SilverSpookGames for the mostly game-related stuff. @SilverSpookGames minus the E in silver, because Vanna White ran out of vowels. Not because I'm racist against E's. Not that that's a thing that you can do. But anyways, @SilverSpookGames, and you can also so this is like updates about Neofeud 2. This is some screenshots from Neofeud 2 that I put on that account. You can also follow Terminus C, which is Terminus Cyberstar, which is a low-poly cyberpunk immersive sim in the vein of late 90s PC games such as Deus Ex 1 and System Shock 2. It's a game that is currently being worked on by myself and a handful of other folks, including Aaron Victoria, who's the producer, and a bunch of other artists, musicians, writers, programmers, level designers, etc. These are some scenes from it. It is a game that is in the vein of Deus Ex, like I said, immersive sim, RPG, like Cyberpunk 2077, in the sense that it's a Cyberpunk 3D RPG, but not similar in the AAA sense, and not similar in the it's full of bugs, falling apart piece of shit sense, and also not similar in the sense that it's not full of crunch. So if this game is not finished in March, it's getting close to the end of it, we're just gonna push it back a bit till things are done, and it's fine. I mean, we've never had an official release date, so this will only be the first time. CD Projekt Red has pushed back Cyberpunk for years, multiple times, and it's pushed it back months, and then in total it's been pushed back at least I think it's over a year, right? So and it took over 10 years to make the piece of shit that they made. Anyways, this is some scenes from inside the game, but again, these are a little bit older. Those screenshots I was just showing you it's a little bit more updated. It looks more like 2003 graphics rather than 1999, 2000, which is what this kind of more looks like. And so, but it is a game that I am the content director on and the writer on, and the things that I talk about on the streams are embedded within the game, and I don't pretend like we make apolitical games. The main character is a runaway from an ICE concentration camp, like in the United States that has concentration camps. It's an escapee from a concentration camp who is homeless, being tracked down by robotic police and human police and military, paramilitary police that are trying to either kill or recapture and put him back in a concentration camp. So that is the kind of it's a super political game, as Terminus Machina was, as Neofeud is, and Neofeud 2 will be. And so and that's my take, is that Cyberpunk is it is, and even if it isn't, for me it is, and it will be. It's written into the game. It's written into all the games. It's written into all the worlds. Anyways, so now, thank you to all of these people. I forgot to thank my Patreon patrons: Dave, James Winton, James Wheaton, Mixzilla, Mr. Brewer, Belinda Ann Taylor, Kiara Kapavar, Industrial Robot, Johnny C. Actually, let me put something behind it that we can read this. Let's see. There you go. Dave, James Wheaton, Mixzilla, Mr. Brewer, Belinda Ann Taylor, Kiara Kapavar, Industrial Robot, Johnny C, Alana Montero, Sean Conlon, Danny Carroll, Eric Wright, GR, Morgan Swampcroft, The Reaver, Charlie Tuthill, Right 455, Matthew Stone, Alexander Roy Gaberhouse, Alfonso De Lazar, Combo Breaker, Lark, Muriel, Skylar Smith, Tim, Kabooters, Ralph Tiny Earl, Control.org, Extremely Online Left, Ted, Charlington Beastcoat, and Danae Paname. Thank you for all of your continued support. It is greatly appreciated. Finally, we'll be back in the evening time. American Johnson, I think, is might be doing another fundraiser stream, if I'm not mistaken, around 5 o'clock, 10 o'clock Eastern, is it 11 o'clock Eastern? I think it's 5 o'clock our time, but Vietnam is not on daylight saving, so I think it's 11 o'clock Eastern time. So we'll be back 11 Eastern. If EJ is doing that stream, I might jump in there, or if not, midnight Eastern. All right, I should just do it Pacific time. We're gonna be back 8 on EJ or 9 Pacific time on Twitch, on my channel. If not, anyways, until next time, keep your mirror shades polished, be excellent to each other, and try to survive your collapsing ass racist plutocratic empire. All right, until next time, press the